if we continue with the incredible fishing overshotted, this is the path the world is going down, you can forget everything that you've ever known about fishing.
He's got another one on, shipped it back again, the Fearless.
One of the greatest things that ever happened for commercial fishing.
If I just spent a little bit more time on my gear.
But I always say I think it's important for fishing to have diversity.
On the Paris match I fished with Graham, I actually hooked 15 carp there.
Oh, that's what it was.
Oh dear.
Result was there.
Yeah.
Must get the Christmas special done.
The cost of those qualifiers.
Yeah.
It just changes everything. It's ridiculous.
And I'm thinking I'd like to come and have a little campaign here.
The money is a draw.
Is that changing who we are? I think it's modern day match fishing's biggest challenge.
If you're a good angler, you're a good angler.
They've got everything, and I don't want to see what we're doing die. I don't want elite matches within the commercial world to be seen as that.
That is all to do with one thing.
Fishing is for everyone from 90 years old to 9 years old. Right, welcome to the Preston Innovations podcast. We are starting again for the winter. We did some great interviews last year, myself and Des were on there. If you haven't watched those, go back and check them out. And we thought we'd start off over the winter time. We want to talk about a bit of a review of the year. So I've got two very handsome men opposite me to talk about the fishing.
Are they behind the door?
Thank you, Lee.
To talk about, well, start as we mean to go on, Des.
Oh, you know what I mean.
To talk about 2025. Everything that's gone on, fishing, what they've been up to, what we've all been up to.
What do you mean? What else have we been up to?
Well, I don't know.
You don't go
That's what I'm
fishing. You're
hoping.
doing
Well, I
anything
don't
else.
know. Yeah,
Eating.
speak for yourselves. Go about fishing.
And then we'll look at 2026 as well and see what's coming up. So, welcome, boys. We're here, aren't we?
Yeah, thank you very much, Lee.
We're here and
Great to
involved
be
with
here.
it. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? So, I mean, what a year 2025 has been. The fishing that we are subject to these days is just literally incredible, isn't it?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Everywhere you go, how many fish is there to catch?
I think
Just-
year on year it just gets better and better, and like new venues as well. You know, for this first time this year, like Springvale's come on the radar. Like, what a venue that was! Like absolutely ridiculous.
I couldn't believe it when I turned up there because I went there for a fish show of qualifier, I
Yeah,
think.
that's it.
And I thought, this Springvale, it can't be very big. Must be like a couple of little lakes. And I've turned up there, walked in, this great, massive, like farm building, and looking out onto a
Every
lake.
lake's the size of
Astonishing, isn't
Barston.
it?
I couldn't believe it.
Astonishing, yeah. I mean, I think that's a great place to start because that is probably the most popular fishery in the country at the moment.
Definitely.
now, isn't it? They are getting full turnouts day in, day out.
There's going to be some big finals there, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
There could be
Well,
some-
there is.
I
Yeah,
think-
yeah.
well,
Seagulls
you
fan.
say there is if there's space, like because it's been really popular for years, but just none of us have gone.
So,
there, have they?
yeah.
you know.
Full match, wasn't it?
Feeder.
Yeah,
Come
listen,
on.
everything they'll all want to be there. Won't they?
Yeah, yeah,
They'll all
yeah.
wanna be there.
How come
Carp
you not
behind
put a
every peg.
qualifier on it?
I'd like to, mate. Getting on, I would have said. Maybe I'll have to look into it for the future.
I'm getting in touch with Sue. Yeah, she's doing a fantastic job.
Doing
there.
like
She
That's all.
she is such
Amazing.
a welcoming host.
She's lovely.
Isn't she?
Really,
for
really
everyone who's ever been there, obviously we've been there.
Yeah.
And they don't need us there. You know, like with the promotion.
They
and
do
everything we
need
do.
us there.
But she welcomes us,
No.
doesn't she? She welcomes us when we come. So
Oh,
it's nice,
definitely.
isn't it? So, I mean, is
Well-
that the ultimate commercial at the moment?
I think so. I don't think there's any better than that at the minute. It's
Big
just
lakes, aren't they?
Big lakes.
That's what's
I think
nice.
The thing about it is you park behind your peg on every single lake there.
Especially my
You've
knee
got
at
a
the
lot
moment.
Oh, Desmond, don't start on your blooming knee already. And obviously the distance you've got between the next peg as well, but quite often that's left for you. I mean, flipping heck. And
Nets on every peg.
nets on every peg.
Yeah, don't have to put nets in.
No,
your
don't
car,
take
do
your nets.
People
I'll take
coming
landing
around
net.
offering you if you want a
Brews
drink.
and
Yeah.
more
like-
pellets.
We went filming there once, and the guy next to me, he backed his car down to the peg, and I mean, like, he didn't even have to take a step from his thing, and then he left it there, shipped his pole into his boot all day.
That's amazing. Roll-
I've
literally
got to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, Des,
But
you missed a trick there.
Also, I'll tell you what I think they did really well there, which a lot of other places don't do. It's mixed fish, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's not just, there's loads of carp. So if you want
I mean-
the carp ticked, you've got it, haven't you? But there's everything, isn't there?
So one thing that like really stands out, Lee, is the silvers fishing on offer is just like second to none, and how much time and effort they put in at the fishery to get the silvers to that size. Because they take ages to grow. I'd in some of the lakes there, they're averaging 2 or 3 pound. You know what I mean? It's like how long is it taking them to get to that stage? And these fish are immaculate.
Yeah.
And it's just
And the people I noticed when I went, it's like you've got like a little McDonald's drive-through, aren't you?
Yeah, when you walk in,
your bait,
yeah,
I was
what
like,
bait
he's
do you
like
want?
that.
Right.
I'm like, oh, hello, what are we checking here? Do you want any bait or do you want some
That's
drink?
it.
I'll tell you what, mate, I'll have a couple of bags of 2 meals, 4
Yeah.
meals. Beep,
And
thank
then,
you, and you're off.
if you don't think you've got enough, you'll come round with a van before
Yeah.
all in. So if you want some more,
It's incredible. It's incredible, and I
brilliant.
know that they've got like a set of rules there that they police. So
Yeah.
they make sure everything's kept in the right way. So when you go in there, you just think, I mean, it is and it's central in the country, really. So it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be an incredible. It's already been incredible.
already is.
And obviously, I think 2026 will be amazing for them.
I think the
I'll definitely
Masters,
go back there
the
again.
Masters Silverfish final.
Yeah, the finals there towards the end of March.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'll be interesting though.
Desperately want to
because there's
qualify.
going to be
Yeah, tell me about it.
some carp, isn't there, or
I
some
don't-
other fish?
I don't know.
End of March, do you think? Or
There will be, but I think there's enough silvers in. I mean, look at fish hole this year. Bagger's done £99 of all tench. He's weighed like £130, but he had £99
That's
of tench.
mad, isn't it?
It's just phenomenal.
it will be an
Lee Riley's
incredible
the same
match.
as well.
That will. Won't
Oh,
it?
yeah.
What late's it on? Do you know? What
Newcastle.
okay.
So Newcastle's one right in front of the
Yeah, that's
the
beautiful,
house.
that lake.
You have just
Beautiful.
like some.
I didn't draw on there, by the way. I was
Did
round
you
the-
not, Des?
No, I was round
Oh,
the
you
back.
So-
were on
so-
one
so
of the
it's round-
tougher lakes, were
I
you?
was on the one that
Took
no
a
one
sea
wants to
draw.
go
Oh,
on.
really, Des?
Yeah, that's been normal.
You still caught £60-70 though, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Did you not? I
No,
think you did.
had
I remember
50 I had
driving.
50 odd.
Did you? Oh, right, okay.
think. But no,
Bad days
yeah.
fishing,
But
all
I-
silvers, like
No,
nothing
I
bigger
did
than a
actually
pound.
fish for silvers for a little bit, well, just to see, and they were all like 8 to 12 ounce
That's what I mean.
skimmers.
There's no like
no
SHIT
snots.
fishing.
Because that's the worst thing, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
There's venues I go to drives you up the wall because they're literally
tiny fish.
tiny
Yeah, yeah.
roach.
You can't put
You
a
can't
little bait
build a
on it.
weight,
No,
can
no,
you?
No, you can't. It's
It's so
frustrating,
difficult that.
It is.
But-
It is. And I'll tell you what. So that's really it's a good place to start actually because silverfish fishing. I mean, I've always loved commercial silverfish. I know
Yeah.
you two both have as
Yeah, I
well.
love it.
But I always
Absolutely
felt
love it.
like for the last, I'm going to say, 10 years, there's never been anybody want to do it. Every time I wanted to go and do it, you might have like a Tuesday match where a dozen went and had a go
Yeah.
at it. But all of a sudden, this is like it's
big thing now.
basically the winter, isn't it?
Yeah.
For a lot of people, they've all suddenly realised, hang on a minute, don't need to dob a piece of bread about. I can go and feed and get bites. And
I think
enjoy
where I
themselves.
live at the moment, a lot of people, not everybody, because some people don't want to fish for silvers,
course.
but the venues have switched on a little bit and gone, we're having a silverfish pool. Right? So some people turn up and go, I don't care where I draw, I'm fishing for silvers. You could draw the best carp peg.
Yeah.
Right? But there's also the point of when you don't draw very well, especially during the winter time, they
Yeah.
go, I'll tell you what, I'm going to fish for the silverfish pool. It might only be 40 or 50 quid,
Yeah.
but I think for where I am, a lot of venues have to do that because that attracts another 10 people.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
total sense. That does. I mean, I can relate to that, because I never thought about it like that. Because I don't go and do that. That doesn't happen up my way. That's
No, it's a bit different, yeah.
And like Lindome, I consider Lindome one of the best fisheries there is going, and it's brilliant fishing. But it's carp and F1s. The silvers in those lakes are a joke.
Wasted,
right?
really.
They are wasted, right?
Yeah.
They had a qualifier. I think it was a Fishing Masters.
This one's just
qualifier.
gone, yeah,
Just
weekend has gone.
£30.
30 odd pounds, wasn't
You
they?
didn't even qualify with 30 odd pounds.
Yeah.
And but they don't run that. And a lot of the times I've been there and I've been on a sort of peg that I know I'm not going to frame on over the winter, especially like when it's like feeder matches and things like that. I'd have loved a silverfish pool.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
have just sat there and gone, do you know what? I'm going to catch, especially when there's people carp fishing around you, the silverfish weights become better, don't they? Because
Yeah.
you're not all sharing the fish with the bait. So
I think also what I've seen, I think like where I live, there's quite a few blokes that have gone, I'm getting a little bit bored of carp and F1s. I now actually want to, because they're all coming in buying like elastics.
Yeah.
And when they get into it, they're like, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. And that's happening. That is definitely happening out there at the moment. There's a lot of people wanting to just go and do something slightly different.
You often used to see anglers like they'd stop in October, start getting in March just because they didn't want to go for silver. But now you're seeing them anglers because they can fish for silvers all year through and what have you.
Yeah.
Carry on getting bites, whereas carp, obviously, we know the shut up
I
shop.
mean, we fished that. I fished in that teams of 4 at Hallcroft, and it
Yeah.
sold out 72 people
Mad.
for 10 matches. You know, it's incredible fishing.
Yeah,
it
that's
really is,
amazing.
because we used to, those same anglers used to go on the Staney and things like that. But I don't blame them. Last time
Convenience.
it
innit?
is.
Yeah.
Parking's difficult. There's loads of mud. You're fishing for a little perch. I think we've been spoiled. We started by saying we've been spoiled.
yeah.
We have been spoiled. The fishing is so good now. And
Yeah.
you can catch £20, right, and think, you're like almost like, oh, I haven't really caught
People
on
want that convenience thing. And I always say, and I think I probably said this in my podcast, if you look at Evesham's very, very difficult. But because you can park your car at the top of the slope, right, you can take all your gear, you can chuck whatever you want in there just in case you need it and go, I'll tell you what, it's a nice match, they're good turnouts.
Yeah, good turnouts.
I'll have a go, but I've only got to walk 20 yards to get to my car. If you had to walk a mile, there's not a chance then people would do it.
There, would you?
Because the fishing's just not good enough to think I'm going to put all that effort in.
Well, I want to touch on the age of anglers and that in a bit because obviously that's another thing.
Yeah,
It's all
yeah.
about what we're talking about. So tell me about this. Talk to me a little bit about Fishing Masters competition because I fished one qualifier last week at Hallcroft.
Yeah.
Give you an example. £37 didn't even qualify.
It's amazing.
£49 won the match to qualify. Ridiculous. I was only fourth in the match with £37. It's unbelievable.
It's such a good concept.
And you two haven't qualified yet. Then
all right, don't rub it in. I've only fished one.
Well, I thought you had.
Let's go.
thought you had qualified.
Did you?
I thought you had,
cheers,
but then
mate.
obviously when you just said you hadn't.
Come on. So I'll get a cat
So
along.
come on,
Honestly,
then,
started
Tell
already.
me about your efforts. Where have you been?
So I did my first one this weekend, just gone at Bradshaw's. I flipping love Bradshaw's. There's always bites to be had.
Yeah.
But obviously the Fishing Masters, it's 20 anglers and you got to win to qualify. You know, there's no sections.
Is there
anything
only
like that.
20 anglers allowed on the match? Have they
Yeah, I
just
think they
restricted
capped it.
each one to 20 anglers? You've got to win. That's hard, isn't it?
It is hard, really hard, especially obviously the calibre of anglers these days as well. You know what I mean? It's frightening. You know, obviously I think we'll, you know, divulge a little bit more into that, you know, everything else later on. But yeah, so fished that one. There's the beauty of the Fishing Masters is, you know, we always used to get told, put qualifiers down south, you know, put more qualifiers down south. So that's what we've done. We've done one at, I think, Whiteacres. Has
Acorn's got two, I think.
one or two,
One or
yeah.
two.
So
What
there's,
Acres is this week, I think.
yeah.
Is it really? Yeah.
So there's like
I think having
venues
one
for
qualifier each time means you can have lots of qualifiers.
definitely.
Well, they're having
spread it out
two,
more.
they're actually having two qualifiers. They got 20 on each lake.
Oh, brilliant.
So-
Because they've
Oh,
got
right,
40
okay.
I think
anglers.
that's yeah. So
brilliant. Yeah.
there is an option for fisheries going. I'll tell you what, we'll have one qualifier.
Yeah.
Sorry, we'll have the competition here, but like Springvale, for instance,
Oh, they
you
get
could
40,
have
you get 40 at Spring.
Oh,
Vale.
yeah,
You'd
yeah,
like
yeah.
that, wouldn't you?
60,
Yeah.
20 on each lake and
Three
free go
qualifiers.
through.
Of course you
Yeah.
would. Yeah.
So there's an option for that fisheries to do
Yeah,
that.
there
isn't
is.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, it proved so popular. As soon as we said where the final was going to be, obviously it's Springvale. It's just like, we've got to get through to it. So proper looking forward to the rest of them. I think my next one is at Springvale.
You didn't qualify though.
All right, Lee.
Is what
I
it's
didn't,
always-
but I've had a Fisher Chuck all
Go to
day.
section win.
No, we don't even mention that. Dave. I've had a Fisher Chuck all day. I've had £18.12.
A fish a chuck all day for 80. What are you doing, mate? Fishing squad.
Yeah,
What
it's,
were
it's
you on
fishing for
about?
desert
Oh,
fish.
they're
Yeah,
brilliant.
You know what I mean? Them ones like that.
Yeah.
And like there was two 30-ones. There was a 27, a 24, a 21, and then me coming in like whatever place it was. But it's brilliant.
£18.
It was freezing.
£18.12 on a cold day's fishing.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? You know, I go on the canal, caught £18.
Oh, flipping
it'd be
heck.
the highlight of my year.
That's like,
You know, like
6 matches for £18 on the
it
canal,
is,
isn't
and
it?
that
I mean,
is, and there's an appeal to that sort of fishing.
Well,
we know.
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I thought they were going to struggle a little bit with everything else that's going on because there's a lot going on in there
Yes.
in match
There is,
fishing,
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot.
yeah,
but they,
yeah.
to be fair, I think Dale from Marston sort of put his,
Yeah.
put it up, hasn't he? Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously with you guys as well,
Yeah.
and it's done brilliant.
I mean, let's just touch on that because when I fished that one at Hallcroft last week, so that was a Fishing Masters one.
Yeah.
Hallcroft, Aston Park down the road had Angling Trust one on.
Mm-hmm.
There was an Angling Trust one the same day at Castle Ashby.
Yeah.
So that day alone, there was 3 silverfish qualifiers from different competitions, and then the Sunday there was two qualifiers for Fishing Masters. And
Tells you some of that.
just it
Shows
that's
how
my
popular.
point. Like that would never have happened. But I think what you've done there with the 20 anglers is brilliant because you're basically going, look, if you're on a league or if you're on something else, you don't have to be there. I actually didn't see many of the anglers I expected to see at Hallcroft because they were at Aston or they were on a league.
Yeah, on the league, yeah.
You know,
Do you know the thing that I think's happened though, and I only vouch because I fished Tunnel Barometer League this year, the numbers have dropped off a lot.
Do you think that is because
seen
there is
No,
so
it's
much
'cause
choice
next
though?
year for me, and I'll be totally honest with you,
Yeah.
I'm like, I think I'm gonna.
You don't want to go to Tunnel Bunk, it's
No.
too far. But Des, you
but-
don't need to. There's going to be matches on your
There's
doorstep.
that much stuff now.
That's my point.
You
Oh,
go,
closer to you.
yeah, but it's unfortunate. It is that I think that's what people are doing. They're going,
Right.
I'll tell you what, I want to put my money and my time into
Closer to
summer something like that. And I can see myself next year, not this winter, obviously, but next winter, I can see myself as long as those competitions keep going. I'm going to go. I'll tell you what, less travelling. Something I love doing anyway, and you don't need loads of kit.
No.
You don't need loads of bait.
No. I get it. I totally get it. I think if you've got things close to you, and that's what's happened is now a big match. Let's call it a big qualifier. Well, it's not a big qualifier. It's 20 people.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the Angling Trust ones, I think, are like 30 people. Like, so they're not. I mean, I fished one at Barston. I'm sure it was like 2 sections of like 15.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not a big match. It was a ridiculously high profile match, but it wasn't a big match. So
Yeah, if
like
it's
you're saying,
100 people, you'd be like, we all know you've got to draw very well, really.
But there's the appeal to travel when it's 100 people,
Yeah.
isn't there? There's the extra appeal. Like I said, I've just told you about the Hallcroft League that I'm doing.
Yeah.
72 people.
That's amazing.
Why would I not go
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
60 people weeks in between on Feeder Masters there.
Yeah.
You go in there, aren't you? You can't afford to travel. So,
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
that's what ends up happening. But what else have you got? So you got a few more, yeah? Is it?
So I've got another 6 or 7 left. My next one's at Springvale in December, so I can't wait for that. I've got a couple of the Angling Trust ones as well. But you know, the dates clash in this, that, and the other. But I always make sure I leave a few dates open for these Silvers qualifiers. Absolutely adore.
Do you think we've all got a bit better at it? Because
100%.
you know, like I think like 4 or 5 years ago or more, we you know, are the fisheries better or are we just understanding it better? I used to think 5
anglers
or
are better, aren't they?
I think
think
so
so.
because I think 5 or 6 years ago when I was doing it, I remember having a chat
It's
with
his
Matt
fault. He's
Godfrey.
doing too much coaching.
But it's right though because you're talking about how you're fishing,
Not
aren't
many
you?
floats on my rig, so there's.
You're talking about how you're fishing,
Yeah.
and you always felt like you were making mistakes, and
Yeah.
now we're all. I think we've all just got a bit better at it, haven't we?
Yeah, we're all for it. You know, we all do these videos, and like people from the outside looking in, they're not making mistakes. They're seeing how you're fishing, and they're not making mistakes. And right, that's what I need to do for that. You go out, practice it, get better and better, and that's what's happening.
But that pushes you on, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely, because
You know.
you want to beat them. Yeah, these lads, these young lads who like all out carping, turn their attention to silvers, and they're so quick at learning. Who can I mention? So I'm going to go back to Hayfield earlier this year. I was next to young Tyler Bird.
Yeah.
They're both joining like mid 40s, I think something like that, in Ireland. And I've said this before, the kid is absolutely fearless. Them younger generation of anglers are fearless. So we'd be doing the same, fishing a jigger, hooking a carp. He'd ship his pole back quicker than he ever did seen. Unship his top kit, strip, fell off. He'd be straight back in, and I'd be like taking my time, making sure I got the carp in. He's got another one on, shipped it back again. They're fearless. Whereas we want to get that fish in. They're like, no, if it falls off, I'll go and catch another one quicker than you because you're old. You know what I mean? It's like, it was amazing. But to witness,
Do you
it was
think
so
you've
good.
slowed down, though, Andy?
No, I am on it. I'm sorrow. No, I think it's that generation. They're just fearless, I think.
I think it's because there's so many fish to catch, though, isn't it? Like, you know, like when I remember we were first travelling to Europe, and you watch European anglers 10 years ago playing, 15 years ago more, playing like a carp. They'd literally play it to a standstill, whereas an English angler would play it and get it in.
Yeah.
Now, exactly what you're saying. Take Tyler as a great example.
Yeah.
Fantastic young angler.
Yeah.
They know they're going to get in a bite again the next time they go out. So they're just basically like, well, I'll just get it in as quick as I can. And sometimes I watch them and you think, that was like a really nice big perch you've had.
And they're like, it's in the net.
Europe, going back to when I fished for England, and I've touched on this before, when I first went, like, I think I guessed it, I didn't actually, I did fish in the end, but you walk along the bank, it was in Holland or Belgium on the canal, and I was like, my God, it's a proper eye-opener. It was the first year they actually allowed potting. So you could use your potting kit.
okay.
Well, for us, that was just normal. We had a potting kit, we had the pots. The next day,
I bet they were shipping out like
they were
this.
shipping out Coke bottles. You know, when they get a plastic bottle, cut it in half, and they put a hole through it, and then use the thread of the bottle to hold it on the top. Honestly, Andy, right? Because that was the first year Phipps allowed potting in. For us, it was like, this is just
normal.
Honestly, the contraptions you've seen on the Tuesday practice, because we cupped it because the fishing was difficult.
Yeah.
But now you wouldn't tell that, and you could walk along. The kit was like, my God,
Yeah, they're behind. Yeah. It's
miles,
cultural, though, isn't
miles
it? It's
behind.
cultural.
Now they're so they're on everything.
I can see it in this country because I do a bit of both, and I do less commercial fishing than I used to. And sometimes I come across anglers who don't do any commercial fishing, and when I watch them, I go, "Yeah, you're a brilliant angler, but you're a considered like, let's say more natural. I'll take my time with this
Yeah,
one. It's
yeah.
a big un.
Yeah.
You know, whereas commercials, I remember catching my first £100. I remember being at
Yeah.
Whiteacres thinking, wow,
Yeah,
what an
yeah.
incredible weight that is. But now I'm going to say a young angler coming into the sport will catch £100 in their first year.
Yeah.
Easy.
It's
Oh,
quick
yeah,
as that,
easy.
you know.
Definitely.
like,
Definitely.
and that means that, like you've just said,
And then
fearless.
they almost expect too much then, don't they? Like,
Yeah.
it's the reports that they'll put in, I only had £80 today.
Yeah.
Like, only £80? Like, back in the day, it took me, like, until I was like, what was it, like 17, 18 to get my first £80. And then
It's
20,
different
21,
now, isn't it? It's so
£100.
different to what it used to
But
be.
admiring fish, like, going back to that, sorry, Des, you know, like, the likes of Tyler, like, fish, if it's like £2 perch, go straight in the net, I'd be like, oh, look at that. And I'd like take a picture
your
of it and
phone
I'd go
out,
and show the bloke next door and I'd get up on me, but you know what I mean? It's like that, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
anything immaculate, like it's just like a pound roach, it's a pound roach or an eye.
They've not seen the hard bits that
No.
I went through when I was younger.
Yeah.
You know, on a river in the winter, just pleasure fishing, you know, 10, 15 pound, you'd be going home buzzing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
we
there's-
are spoiled.
We are.
We
spoiled.
are
yeah.
spoiled
I remember,
massively.
I remember
think.
going pleasure fishing as a youngster and blanking and or catching a roach.
Yeah.
And thinking, well, I got my waggler
good.
good. I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
how I was. If I ever get on him, I'll be quite good. And Tyler's my favourite example at the moment because he's not a sponsored angler or anything like that.
No.
And a lot of people won't know who he is, but he's a fantastic young angler.
Great
And
attitude, hasn't he?
Yeah, great attitude. And
That
yeah,
changed.
but and
When he gets in the Barnsley team,
yeah,
that'll ruin him.
you never know. We'll sort him out.
We'll sort him out. He's on it.
Yeah, he's an idiot, that bloke, honestly.
He's not met Zolt yet. That'll kill him off.
Oh, dear, no.
But I was opposite him at Meadowlands, and he was on he drew a good peg, the peg that everybody wanted. And I had a chance to win this festival and needed a win. And I'm fishing away and I'm looking at him sheltered from the wind, and he's tapping these pellets in, catching a big skimmer every bung in. And at one point I was thinking, are they as big? Because he's doing, you know,
Yeah.
like this.
Straight in.
And I'm thinking back to it, and I'm thinking when I was, and I think he was 18 at the time, I was thinking when I was 18, I couldn't have even come close to beating Alan or Des or who. I couldn't have even.
No.
If I was like even in a.
It'd be in there, wouldn't it?
I'd
Thinking,
need to be on the best peg to come within £10 of him.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm looking at him going, he's definitely beat me today, 1,000,000%. You know, and I've got brilliant anglers here, but he's on the best peg and he's doing it brilliant. And he won the match with the biggest weight of the
Brilliant.
week, you know, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. But they
they're
catch,
on it, aren't they?
They catch more fish. It's a bit like Luke Littler with darts.
Yeah.
He can throw darts all the time. When we were younger, it took you so long to build the experience, didn't it? Took you, people would say, oh, you need to be more experienced and more, have more understanding. And I think nowadays they build experience of catching fish in literally
Oh,
a
definitely.
heartbeat, don't
Yeah,
they? So-
yeah. It's obviously the exposure to social media in it that helps massively.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
also,
look what he did with go on, Des.
the gear when I was fishing.
Yeah.
I had, I'll tell you what it was. It was a Garbellino Virage. That, honestly, I was going on the Kettering Canal, and then that pole went like that, and it sort of kinked in the middle, and then went like that down to your float.
Is it one of them you have to strike like 5 seconds before you think you
It
get the
didn't
bag?
have to strike. You couldn't strike. It was impossible. But that now is completely different. I remember I got a picture of when I fished the Super League final at Hayford.
Yeah.
In Oxford, Towcester way.
Yeah.
I was fishing for Thatchers then. I was up against
Lock with Cole,
Dorking
isn't
and
it?
all that.
Yeah.
No, we're not
Was it not
allowed.
then?
No.
Or was that
And
done?
I've got a picture. It was on the front page of Match Fishing magazine. I've still got the magazine. I had a Boss box, right? And you remember the little fold down foot
little
plate
foot
on
plate.
it?
Yeah.
I
With the
took
tray
the
that.
foot plate off because I couldn't quite get, and I've got a picture. Brian Gay, if he's listening, he took the picture, and I'm sat on my box, and I've got my legs on a piece of wood like that, so I can get that extra like 6 inches to a foot on the foot plate.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen.
Is that
now,
the
would it?
one with the side toe that you put on
That's
these
it.
metal things?
That's it.
Yeah, I had one of them.
Yeah.
You might have your tubs on a bucket. Still not
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But I
Went high
think
enough.
obviously with the level of tackle, the level of info, and the exposure to catching fish.
Yeah.
That's the key that I haven't really thought about as much in the last few years for them. Like I think, why are they moving so fast? And it's the exposure. If they go fishing twice a
Fishing's
week,
good as well.
if
Isn't
Yeah.
they go fishing twice a week, they will catch £100 over
Oh,
a weekend
easy.
on a bad weekend.
Definitely.
And that is like what you're talking about. I remember at one point thinking, if I had £20, I remember as a kid thinking, if I caught £20 every match here, I'd win a load of money. That was
Yeah.
genuine.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you caught £20, but now you could fish a a club match, and you know they all need £100 in a club match.
Oh, definitely, yeah. The
Just
venues where they
compete,
go
don't
to.
they?
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, which is great for fishing because I think it pushes us on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's made, you know, it makes us better, it makes us stronger, and I think
I think we've come to an age where we just got to enjoy it, Andy.
What, the pub or fishing?
Everything, as much as we can.
You do,
I do.
definitely.
Yeah. No, I still
two,
absolutely
which
do.
two? Yeah, which two are you talking about? Yeah, yeah. That's
yeah.
brilliant. Well, I think that, you know, obviously over the winter, you're going to say you're doing some of these fishing masters as well, are you?
Yeah, Fish South.
Another example
I've
of
actually
good competition.
Yeah, Fish
Yeah.
South. Obviously, John does a brilliant. You know, he's taken out under his.
Isn't that
under
Fish
his wing.
South Silvers though?
Fish South
Because
Silvers.
they have a Fish South
Carp.
non-silk carp as well, don't they? Throughout
so
the summer.
I'm fishing. I've got a couple of tickets, but obviously, this is Tunnel Barn gets in the way. So next year, I'm thinking. Not sure 100% yet, but yeah, probably sack it off and then go and do them. Yeah, Fish South, the Masters.
Yeah.
Angling Trust.
Yeah.
Luckily I'll qualify for that, so I've sold my tickets
Have
back.
you qualified for that?
No.
Oh,
Oh, mate.
I didn't know. I'm just asking the
Have you
question.
qualified?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lee, he barely fish any matches.
Did he not? Oh.
I had
Are you going to fish?
71
Are you going to have a go at Angling Trust one?
Yeah, I've got another 2 left of Angling Trust ones.
Did you?
I did my first one early October. I think it was the first one at Bishop's Bowl.
Okay.
I was close on that one as well, but we don't want to dwell on that. Yeah, go on. What else have you got, Des?
So yeah, then
Yeah.
really just odd weekends, just doing
Where have you caught £70 of silvers then? I didn't know you
Tamar
qualified.
on a
Tamar.
top kit,
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
on a F1 kit to hand.
Have you ever seen more fish in a natural venue than Tamar?
No,
I'd love to
ridiculous.
go.
Graham West weighed me in,
Ridiculous.
and I pulled my net out, and he was like,
All
I
in one-
pulled my net out, and I'm like, because I fished a match there a few weeks, a pairs match with Graham. I have 22 kilo, which is like 46 pound, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I caught really well. And then that match, I caught the same stamp of fish. I caught a few sort of 8-10 ounce perch, and I pulled my net out at the end, 5-hour match that as well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, something's caught on my net.
On a top kit? You just
A short kit to hand, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. A short kit as well.
A short kit, F1
Ridiculous
kit.
fishing in it.
Yeah, with like number 8 elastic in it. And I pulled my net out. I thought, that's a good weight, that.
One net.
And
Shocking.
Graham West, Graham West was a bit shocking. Graham West just started laughing. He said,
Yeah.
I have never, ever. You know, when you push, you're doing that and you're putting him in this waist thing, this waist thing's like that deep.
Yeah, and you're like, I'm
I'm
going to have to
like,
stop it.
it's like full up.
Just keep-
And he just started laughing. But yeah, it was mega.
That's
Yeah, it's a
amazing.
good example, though. We used to go to Porth.
Yeah.
£8 to £10 was incredible.
Yeah.
Remember us being in the same
Yeah,
section, battling
yeah.
it out with £14.
He
Fit,
said,
big
I remember
weight.
that because you come to me and says, "What have you got a stone?" I'm like, "What stone?"
Yeah.
There's one on the floor there. I didn't have a clue what you're on about.
Yeah, yeah,
stone
yeah.
meaning £14.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, oh no.
and
I
then
said I
you
got like
seven.
I'm-
Seven.
People
You know-
used to say
I'll
to me,
tell you.
Porth used to be like
I'm
this. And
horrendous.
I'm like,
No, Porth was never
No.
like that, no.
Porth was like 12 to 15
Yeah,
pound.
yeah.
Yeah,
Not like
Yeah.
40 to 60.
yeah.
It's never that good.
Never.
Never.
No, I was
Not
that,
even-
That day we're talking about when Andy admitted to 7 and weighed 14, we both had 14.
14 something. You won the section, didn't you?
Did I beat you?
Yeah, 14. I think I had 14.7.
Yeah, so
Both fished Waggler, didn't we? I fished a little
We
slider.
fished a Waggler.
You fished a
And-
Waggler.
But that day, how buzzing were you with 14?
Oh, amazing.
Like, and I do believe the weights were like
I used-
£7-8 for a lot of the
Yeah,
section.
I think some of our background back then, it's quite a few years ago, I used to live for Porth. Porth was my favourite venue ever. I
Yeah.
absolutely adored it.
Yeah.
It's
It
just
was
one of them.
incredible, wasn't
It's
it?
just the
Can't even
fishing's
fish it now.
amazing.
Yeah.
Can't even fish it now.
But if you go to
So
if you
weedy.
go to Tamar and catch £14, you are literally
Nowhere. That's what you want to be doing in an hour.
The lowest weight on the first day of Feeder Masters was 9.15.
Have
we
you
were 1 ounce away from every angler having
Yeah.
double figures.
Mad.
have you been there not feeder fishing, like what fishing with a
Well,
pole?
I haven't been to and fish with a pole at Tamar. I would
Right,
like
okay.
to, but it's
I'd love
It's pretty sad that, like, when I come back from that match, I was like, if I just spent a little bit more time on my gear, you know what I mean? Because you start.
What would you do, Don? What one of
Well,
them? you
because
mean?
like when I fished for England with like the bleed hooks and stuff, we used to.
Oh, right, okay.
I mean,
Good idea.
there's little things that you can do. You can put a little bit of super glue. You can put
Yeah.
a little bit of Aradite.
yeah.
Literally,
Stops your bait blowing up the line.
Yeah.
Leave your tag long on
Yeah.
your hook. You fish a
every
longer
single
shank hook,
fish.
Yeah.
You know.
li-
The rules now, isn't it?
Well, it's really interesting that because they talked about that. So they
Yeah,
used to put a tiny little bit of blob of Araldite on the knot to effectively stop your pinky blowing back up the line.
You
Yeah.
used to do it red as well. You used to put a bit.
But
of
then,
red food dye.
but then they started
Didn't they?
mixing red food dye in it. So effectively, even if your pinky was the skin, you had a red blob on your hook.
Yeah.
So it's an artificial bait.
Yeah.
So it got banned. And this year in the World Champs, which was all bleak, they literally said we'll be checking hooks because
Do
you
they?
can't have this blob, which is hilarious because obviously the lads had prepped
Oh,
like reams of hooks with all these blobs of araldite on.
Get
So,
the snippers
but
out.
I understand that if the thing on the hook is artificial,
Yeah.
then you have to think about it. But yeah, what you're saying is there's the
I
little
could have just
details
tied
make
them.
the
I
difference.
never tied
couldn't
any.
you?
I just use N10 straight off the
Yeah.
pre-tied
yeah.
hooks.
I bet a
Will do for me,
6-inch hook
Des.
length.
Do you know what I mean?
and-
But
yeah.
and you think if the people that would have tied that would have just left that little tag in a little bit longer, I'd have been like, "This, thank you."
Yeah.
As it happens, they done them absolutely perfect, and I was cussing them. I'm like,
Got to
"Too
beat up
short."
again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
too
yeah,
short
that's
because literally every fish.
If you
you
used
put
the
up
short
line.
kit of elastic, you could have used a flick tip, couldn't you?
Yeah, I like
you know,
elastic because like the roach
yeah.
and stuff,
Then
but
big
the
perch
big
as well.
perch and that. But
Yeah.
So what
but
are you feeding? Just loose feed? Or you put, like, little
I
balls
actually
of ground bait in, or-
fed 8 litres of ground bait.
8 litres of ground bait, did you?
Mm.
What's that, like 3 kilos? Something like that.
About 3 to 4 kilos.
What, feeding little hard balls?
Well, I
or
bought it at the start.
did you?
Yeah, I thought
What,
sod
like,
this.
What, on a top
when you
kit?
say balled it,
Yeah.
you just
Oh,
like,
you just like
No,
that,
I
stretch
just
your
went
arm out.
like three,
Yeah,
four, like 4
Don't-
great big baby's heads like that, like
Yeah.
loose, and
Yeah.
then just chuck ground bait and loose fed cast over the top
Have you just done that one line all day?
all day.
That's amazing. What were the backing weights saying?
how deep,
30 odd pound a
how deep is
second.
it? Were you fishing?
30.
2.5, 3 foot maximum.
Wow. Wow, unbelievable. When you're there, Andy, and
I'd
you
love
fish
to
the
have a
feeder
go.
masters, if you drop
Oh,
any
it does your
bait
head in.
I've seen some of the
watch all
videos.
perch like come and destroy
But they're
your bait.
not.
And they're not like
They're
little
not
waspy
like-
things.
No, they're all sizes.
Hmm.
But the amazing thing is, and there's a lot of natural venues that I've been on, and Lee about this, even on the feeder, you can after an hour or two on the feeder, you'll be chucking your feeder out, and all the roach are on the top like that. Like, you think, I can't catch one. You don't. You might get 2 or 3 on the drop.
Just because they're coming up for the
It's
bait.
exactly the same on the pole. You think on the pole at Tamar, you would put the first time I went there for like pole fishing, I'd have a 1.5 gram rig for like 3 foot of water, thinking like, bosh, waste of time.
Really?
Well, you got to
Don't
fish
catch
like
that. You got
nice
I
through
fished
the
a
water.
4B12 Chianti.
There you
Yeah,
go.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
That's
weird.
brilliant, that is.
It's completely different to what you would actually think it would be.
Do you not get like Matherby pike? Is it?
There's no
No pike
in
in
no
there.
pike in it?
there's
No
no
pike.
pike.
Oh, right, okay.
No pike. I got on the Paris match I fished with Graham. I actually hooked 15 carp there as well. On the
Oh,
first
right,
match.
okay. Go ahead.
Did you really?
15 carp I hooked.
That's incredible.
And
But
I
bear
think
in
it
mind,
was-
like one
There's not
case
that
of
many.
Ian
feeder
Gray was
masters,
next
so
door
there's
to me. He
loads
was just
to get
killing
feeder.
himself. He said, I cannot believe I'd be like, hey up, Graham. Snap.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow, what a
Some of them
venue.
are huge as well. 'cause
No,
you
they're
think,
big
you
ones,
look
aren't they?
down, you think, and you keep next to this deer, you think, what's that black shape there?
Oh, that's what it was.
Oh, dear.
They're saying you.
Yeah,
God.
goodbye.
Incredible,
Flipping
isn't
heck.
it?
Yeah.
It's incredible. Some
Wow.
of the
yeah.
fishing is remarkable. So qualify for that one. Are you going to have a go at qualifying for Angling Trust one as well?
Definitely. I've got a couple left, Lee.
Where's the final for that one?
Medlands.
Meadowlands,
Yeah,
where it was
yeah.
last time.
Yeah. Which is, I want to touch on that in a bit because I was going to talk about conditions because that is fishing its nuts off, isn't it? Medlands
Really
again.
good.
Yeah, and last winter they couldn't get a bite there.
This is exactly it. So what is the difference then? Let's talk about this because 2025, last winter 2024, it was like, I mean, people start saying things like, oh, they've lost a load of fish.
Dead.
Oh, but every single place we all went silverfish fishing over the winter was quarter as good as it
Yeah.
normally is.
Yeah.
Everywhere in
Yeah.
the UK.
Barston was horrific, wasn't
They
it?
were
Yeah.
just, I mean, obviously the mass rumours about them all being dead.
Yeah.
I went on the Angling Trust qualifier there.
50, 60
yeah,
odd pound, didn't you?
50 odd pound,
Did
yeah.
Frankie have 50 odd pounds?
Yeah,
Oh,
didn't qualify with 50
Yeah.
pounds.
mad, isn't it?
How can you not, like there was 2 people with 50 pounds that didn't qualify that day.
What are they doing?
You know, what are so not being
Silly
funny,
playing that.
what happens to the fish when that happens? Because like when people go, oh, they're just not there.
Yeah.
Well, they are there.
Yeah.
It's a lake. They can't get
I
anywhere
just don't
else,
think they're
so-
in. I think they just ball up. I do.
Do you?
I think they do. I think they just go in a massive ball, and I think they just sit off bottom and they're just like, nah,
Do you
we're
think
not, we're not doing it.
Do you know what my theory was that last year we had a really wet, cold summer, and I'm not a scientist with fish, I don't know, but my fishing experience tells me that when fish are cold for a prolonged length of time, it's almost like their metabolism, they just don't feed as aggressively.
Yeah, they don't
Because
need to.
warmth, they love the warmth. Look,
Yeah.
when you go to Europe, it's ridiculous, isn't it? The warmth, they just feed like crazy. The hotter the country, the more you
I
feed.
think there's a
Yeah.
problem
You
as
know.
well with like what's happening now. What's happening now is the problems with oxygen on fisheries are getting later in the year for
Right.
some unknown reason.
Right.
not being funny, how warm's it been?
Yeah.
Well, this is my
So
point.
mild.
So this
17
year,
degrees in November.
so this year we've had this such a warm, dry summer, and I just think all the fish are still in feed mode,
Yeah.
aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen
You know,
some
like-
small ducks that big the other
Yeah.
day.
Ducklings at
No
Paddock last week.
way.
That big,
Yeah, yeah.
days old.
yeah.
They're not going to see it through, are they?
No.
No chance. No. Well, you say that. It depends if we get any cold.
Well, true.
You know,
Yeah.
this is we've had a bit of a
And-
cold spell for a few days, but I mean,
I don't know what happened last year. I really don't.
It was a funny one, wasn't it? Yeah. I remember going on with Bud on Meadowlands trying to do a challenge, and we both didn't get a bite for like 90 minutes, 2 hours. fishing.
Was that the challenge?
We didn't put the challenge out. But yeah, it's
I
incredible.
remember seeing that one.
Like, we didn't see that. We didn't do that
see
one.
that one,
Like,
Andy.
no,
No.
cut this one here.
Remember the day
But
we done
like,
that? Me and Lee did a challenge, and I
did.
couldn't even put a bait on. My hands were too cold.
It was
I
so
had the
cold and
right,
rainy that day. Yeah, it was.
Ridiculous.
That
I'm
was,
like,
that was ridiculous. We had to. We should have stopped because it was like, and it was just no. We got to get the result was there.
Yeah.
Must get the Christmas special
Adam
done.
Rumbles
Zolt's
out.
fault.
Just
I'm
right.
like, Adam, I am going.
Yeah.
I'm. I
Yeah.
got the right.
oh,
one.
right, okay.
Yeah, I'm
But
so
yeah, no, it's,
cold.
and then you go on them pegs now, and you get to
Well,
catch one or two.
and this year
fishing
it's
was
fishing
brilliant when we done it.
incredible, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
It's
brilliant.
good
But the
fishing.
fishing is incredible again this year, and I know they've stocked a few little carp in it, but it's not the reason. Before they stocked the carp, it was brilliant. And
Yeah.
like I just told you about Hallcroft, you know, £37 for nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's remarkable. So I think we're going to be in for a
I think it'd be
great
good.
start to 2026.
Oh,
aren't we?
100%,
You know,
definitely.
I think everything's looking really positive. And
I think Zolt could even qualify for one of these
Don't
finals.
go
Oh,
through
no, don't
those.
go that far.
get
Flipping
carried
heck.
away.
No, he's looking pretty.
I don't think so.
He's looking
No.
confident.
No. Is he?
We will,
Well,
we will see next week.
Where are you going?
Are you fishing? Are you-
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
go on.
no, we can't.
Oh,
we
dear.
can't say
Secret.
a lot.
Oh,
That's
top
a secret. That. Yeah,
Zolt's
sorry.
going fishing, is he?
Well,
Oh,
he's
right.
actually fishing a qualifier
Is
on
he?
a coaching uncoachable.
Oh, is he really?
Oh.
Well,
So-
last time that happened, he blew it in the last stage of Salt.
Well,
So, didn't you?
oh, that was it. Southfield.
Southfield. He was honestly.
He was close, wasn't
I
he?
thought all he's got to do is catch a bream.
I think it was the coach for.
Probably was the coach. To be fair. Yeah, probably was.
That was
Shouting.
an easy day.
Mm.
This is going to be a hard day.
Is
Let me
it?
tell you.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've no experience. I
I've
don't
got
think
a
I
new
want to
bean
experience
pole. I
it.
bought one of those bean poles that are made of metal.
No, just to hit him harder.
yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so moving on to 2026 then. Let's talk a little bit about what you're thinking and what you're thinking about targeting, because it changes all the time. And I want to touch a little bit on what we were talking about there and, you know, this next generation of anglers coming through and challenging like the norm. They're challenging, you know, let's look at Fishermania.
Yeah.
Arguably the biggest competition in the UK.
Yeah.
Won by young Brad Lucas, who
Yes.
is incredible.
Amazing.
The fishing is
Yeah.
his angling ability is incredible. And if we'd have done this podcast, I'm going to say 2 years ago,
Yeah.
you wouldn't know who he was.
No.
Not a chance, you know, like
What's he been fishing like 5-6 years, like proper match fishing. That's
Yeah.
all he's been doing. It's incredible.
incredible.
Where he is now.
Yeah,
Just-
exactly. And it goes to show that when and I noticed there was a young angler on that, and it's terrible. I should have checked his name next to Andy Bennett on the day. Oh, I've forgotten his name now. That's terrible. It'll come to me. I'll get Zolt to put it in below.
I know what you mean. I'm looking
I
at
do,
him.
yeah.
I'm
Why
looking
is
at him
that?
now.
You know, getting like a mind blank.
Go on.
You know,
Yeah, go ahead.
And
I'll get
he
him.
won our Preston Innovations Young Junior Angler 2 years running. Okay.
You. I'm sure Des was with him on the first year.
Henry, not Henry.
No, it'll
You
come
with
to
him
me.
on that first
Zolt,
year.
put it in on the caption
Where
below
on?
because
On Alvechurch.
got-
That was coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alvechurch.
yes.
Harry.
Yeah, Harry
Harry.
Michael.
Harry
Michael,
Michael.
yeah. Go on,
You know
Harry.
he's come, you know what he's come through.
of you?
Exactly.
Yeah, that must be
Well,
what it
go
is.
on.
Well, he's
The
got.
Matrix Preston Day done him. That
Well,
was it.
He's got his dad's fantastic guy, and I know his brother goes fishing as well. And
Yeah.
they came on some of the talent pathways back in the day. But now you've got Harry sitting down in Fishermania, beating arguably the best commercial angler, one of the best there's ever been in Andy Bennett
Yes.
in the day.
Yeah.
And that is, you're talking about a guy who's qualified via a junior competition. So now we are looking at an era where it's not like it used to be, because I feel a little bit like I had to wait until I was at least 30 to actually be good enough to win anything, because you didn't have the experience.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
You didn't
definitely.
have you couldn't get enough experience to win anything. It was
Yeah.
really weird.
Yeah.
And then obviously you can, but these days it wouldn't surprise me if Harry wins Fishmania next
Don't
year.
you think?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, this year has to be, or last year, I thought some of these competitions are not going to happen. I think it's got to be Fisho
No,
is
he's untouchable.
done.
Yeah.
But a few of the others, or a couple of the others, I can't.
I don't know, Des,
Because there seems to be a core. There's a core of, because we touched on this a while ago. The cost of those qualifiers,
Yeah.
even for the likes of us,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? When we're sponsored, so we
Yeah.
get our kit,
Yeah.
we get our bait,
It's hard.
or
It's
our
hard.
ground
It's
bait,
what we do for a living.
right? I've worked it out, like especially if you travel as well. You're talking 50 quid ticket, right? Not all the competitions, just
Minimum
a couple,
for a
right?
big qualifier.
50 quid ticket,
is
20
minimum.
quid pools on the day, so that's 70 quid.
Yeah.
Let's say 40 quid in diesel. So that's 110 quid before you even
By a maggot.
think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And some of these venues you go to, you do need a lot of casters.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might have to take both because you don't know what's going to happen. I just can't see.
The only thing I'm going to say to you, and I agree with what you're saying, but we're living in an era where everything costs a fortune.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I took my kids to this like soft play type thing the other day, and it was 25 quid each for both of them. So 50 quid.
Yeah.
And then we went for a meal afterwards, me, my missus, and the two kids, and that was 60 quid.
I was going to say minimum to quid. Yeah.
So that's 110 quid, and I was home at #1.
But
So it doesn't matter what you do; it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
the thing I hate, because I can't qualify before you two
Go on, Des.
is I'm sat there. Your competition, Lee Feeder Masters, for me, the payout, the way you run it, the do it like you got 60 people and you get 3 qualifiers. Right, it's no different to these smaller silverfish things.
Yeah.
It always feels like you're in the race.
You're in it, aren't you?
You're in it.
You're in it.
It's not a 80 peg match.
Depends
Shut
who
up,
we're
Zal.
talking about.
Yeah, true.
It's not an 80 peg match with one person goes through. I absolutely hate it. It drives. I'm angry. I'm angry.
He's angry talking
You're
about it
angry-
now, isn't he?
No, but I think a lot
Set
of
him off
people,
now, Lee.
I think a
Change
lot of
the
people out
subject.
there would be the same.
Yeah, I
You're
think.
sat there and you think if this was 20 if this was a 20 peg zone, I'd have a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you would.
Give
Yeah,
it
no.
80 pegs,
Yeah.
right? You're not even on the right lake.
No, that's the problem. Yeah.
For me, it drives me in this. It drives me insane. My van is like on rev limiter. Like,
I'm not changing gear. I can
know what I
stay
mean?
in third.
I don't blame Des. I don't blame you because
Yeah.
that, I
just want it like.
But there's enough things to do. I haven't fished any of the commercial qualifiers for at least 3 years, and I was only doing
That's
an
why
odd
you're
one or two
calm.
before.
I need to
Because-
try this.
Yeah, because I wanted to do I love the Feed Masters policy of how to qualify.
Yeah.
I then go and do what I want to do, and that's a really great topic to discuss because fishing has now allowed you to do whatever you want to do. It's a shame that you might have to feel the pressure to go on that sort of match because I would love to be I would love to fish the Fishermania final. I went with Dave Shires when he was practicing. We did a bit of a film with the Edge, and I stood there, and it was nice to see everybody I haven't seen because I never see them because I never won those matches, and they're all talking to me, and I'm thinking I'd like to come and have a little campaign here, even though it's this deep and all the rest of it, all the things that you think about it. And then I thought, I couldn't stomach doing what you said. I can't stomach going to Lindome, drawing on Bonsai, and unless you're on Benny's, you can't win.
Yeah.
I can't handle it.
it does my head
and
in.
I stopped going
Really
because of
does.
that. But
But I think for the average guy doing that, like for what it costs an average guy, and I know, like you said, everything's gone up.
yeah,
I mean, pools hasn't gone up.
No.
That drives me.
yeah,
That drives me up the wall.
yeah,
Where you think I used to pay 20 quid, 25
back
quid 20
years
years
ago, wasn't
ago.
it?
yeah.
And that's not really changed. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's another subject. But it is. I've had some real dodgy journeys on the way home. Where my
Gotta stop off.
Where the service,
I'm a bit of a
the
moment.
service lights come
I
on.
think maybe obviously without getting too carried away, you've been used to an incredible amount of success, Des.
No, I know.
The
You
success in your fishing is so remarkable that when you don't
I
succeed,
told this podcast would go my way.
when
hadn't
you
it?
when you
kicked in though, isn't it?
it's right though, isn't it?
Yeah,
when you're
definitely.
a high achiever,
Yeah, it's hard.
when
It
you're
is
a high
harder.
achiever,
Yeah.
so it'd be like let's go back to the darts. It'd be like taking Luke Littler,
Yeah.
who expects to get to the final of every
Yeah.
darts tournament you play, and going, actually, Luke, your board that you're throwing on is this big, and these guys are going to throw on this bigger board. It is actually what you're saying. You're handicapping. So if you're an angler who's used to success, then yes, it can be difficult. If you're an angler who fishes his local one at Lindome because it's nearby, and he only fishes 2 a year. But he loves going to Lindome because you'll be there and you'll be there.
Yeah,
And all your good guys are there and he wants to sit around and be
they love
there.
it, don't they?
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
And because I tell you what used to happen a lot, you sit down, let's take you as an example, and you sit down on your peg and you go, right, how can I win from here? And you weren't
That's
going
the
to.
problem
You
with
never
it.
were going to. So then you fish for £100, even though you're never going to catch 100. He catches 40, plodding away, and drives home and goes, beat
Brilliant
Des.
day.
Beat
Yeah,
Des.
yeah.
Beat Des.
No,
Put
I don't allow that to
£40.
happen.
Yeah,
I will try my hardest.
You're not beating
I'm
me.
telling you now. I'll be
Fishing for perch.
that throwaway line comes in on that. Oh, I better
I'll
have
chuck
a,
them back and say they have
Yeah.
£60. I'll beat
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your take on it, Andy? Because you like doing the fish shows. Obviously,
do.
Fishmania champion in the past. So,
Yeah.
you know, what? I mean, it's probably the main competition that you do in the summer, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't fish as many qualifiers. Obviously, family, gets in the way and everything. Absolutely adore that. But I tend to do the ones closer to me, so within an hour and a half, even though there's loads of qualifiers all over the place. I tend to do more of the fish shows than I will the Maybe Match This and the Golden Reels. But I just love the concept of it. It doesn't bother me in the slightest because, in my opinion, it all comes down to luck of the draw. So it is what it is. You know what I mean? We all have our rub the green
Which
kind of thing.
shows the difference, doesn't it? Because obviously, like you say, Des and I have a similar attitude to Des with it. That's how I felt about it. But I've always noticed that you look at it in a different way. Well, this is my chance to go fishing. This is the match I'm going to fish. And I
Definitely.
don't really care.
Proper get ready for it.
yeah.
Take all my floats off and, having from that, deep I don't.
Yeah.
But that's, joking apart, that might be another subject. It probably will be. That's, it's just them different styles of fishing. And it's what you get used to. You know what I mean? I'm used to fishing them snake lakes, that kind of thing. And I think there's a lot of lakes where you could potentially qualify from rather than like the bigger open waters, that kind of thing. These snake lakes, obviously it comes down to the draw, but I think there's more.
It
more
does come
chance.
down to the draw, but take Jamie, who fishes all the time. If he can qualify every
14
year,
years on the
but
run.
it proves it's doable.
Yeah.
So it proves it's doable,
14 years.
regardless of
Ridiculous.
of whatever you need to qualify.
Yeah,
that
that's what
to
you
me
do.
shows how it can be done if you are
Yeah.
elite enough to commit yourself and do it and be as good as he is.
And
So,
I'll proper look forward to it. I'll get ready, and then that following week I'll get proper ready for it.
Yeah.
And I'll look forward to it from like the Monday right the way through to the Friday night. Oh, I do.
But you might. But the difference is, and I love
Still asleep.
I love having you two guys here because Des, you'll fish 3 matches that week. You will fish 3 matches that week, where Andy hasn't fished a match that week.
No.
So he's going for and he's not going to fish another match until 2 weeks' time. And there's another
No,
qualifier.
I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can't
that.
do it.
That's you.
I just
You
love
going fishing
matches, don't you?
I
don't
just
you?
love fishing matches.
Yeah.
I just love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Like
just-
this time of year now, I would fish 4 surface matches a week if I could.
yeah,
Would you?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I'd absolutely buzzing.
yeah. Look at that for a difference in,
hell, it's mad, isn't it?
and that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the difference. Bearing in mind, I consider you both equally brilliant and successful, but your style is so different. I think that's really contrasting, and I think it's.
Yeah.
But it's isn't that proof that it's each their own? Isn't that?
Of
course it is.
What
That's the beauty of
Nothing
fishing.
better for me than seeing like a light elastic, those little hooks, light hooks,
Yeah, yeah.
light elastics. I just.
But
I
you
thrive
love
it.
fishing and the
Yeah.
love. When you caught all those fish at Tamar, for some people, they might find it repetitive. I bet you the.
I was like,
Just what carry on.
I'm going to fill that keep net up.
Yeah, that's it.
I want them. I literally want them.
Isn't it brilliant?
I want them overflowing.
Yeah.
With a 3 meter keep net.
No
I just want
space
them,
in it.
I want them coming over the
Come
top.
on, boys, coming at me, Bill. There's a net
Yeah.
out. Flipping out.
That's exactly right.
As
Love
soon
it.
as I come off the bank, Graham's like that. Graham was like, I don't know what to say, Des.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
said, that is incredible. And I'm like, Gray, if I'd have just had those hooks right.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And he's
I caught
like,
him
"What?"
flipping
Yeah,
out.
I remember you doing that
Yeah.
years ago at Belingi.
I'm like, but
Oh,
I
really?
just
Wow.
would have
Look
had
out.
that right.
Yeah.
You know,
broke the
but-
record at Belingi.
But
Caught
still-
300 odd pounds.
Oh, Waco, yeah.
Right,
Waco weighed me in.
Literally
that day.
300 odd pound. Nobody's had 300. This is before 300 pounds even a breath.
Yeah, yeah.
Des has had 300 pound. Everybody's like, wow, 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 incredible. First thing out of Des's mouth is, if I'd have had that elastic in.
Flipping
Tommy
out.
Oh, elastic
Pickering,
was-
I
I
drove
was
into
totally
White
wrong,
Acres,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
Tommy Pickering was walking down the road, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" He said, "Is that right that you've had £307 at Belingi?" He's like, he said, "That is a." He said, "I said, Tommy, if I'd have been air rigging," and he's like, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
He said that. He said, I said, if I'd have been
Difference in
air
mentality,
rigging.
what you're thinking of,
that
isn't
was
it,
like
that?
air rigging, the start of it all, wasn't it? But I said, if I'd have air rigged me instead of hooking it,
What were you on the short line? Or were you on that
no,
narrow bit?
18.5 metres.
Yeah,
I
like,
think.
to that point.
That
yeah.
little point, right?
yeah.
Okay, flipping heck, Des. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But you're right, Andy. That is the mentality.
It is.
That is inbuilt in you, Des. That is
Yeah,
that.
I love
that,
it.
Once
That-
fishing's done for me, I'm like thinking of something. I'm like thinking of like going home and like this. That. I'm not that. I don't think about that much again. Then.
No,
Would you say, Des, that you're never satisfied with fish, like in your
No.
fishing? Because
Never.
that is
never?
That's why
I-
you are, isn't it?
which is
That's
weird,
why.
isn't it? Because I think a human trait is good to be satisfied sometimes. Like,
you know
you've got to be happy,
Do you know
haven't you?
the problem?
Like,
The problem
you know.
I've got. The problem I've. It's not a problem. I'm very fortunate. Like we all are to
Yeah,
be in
yeah.
the positions we're in.
Yeah.
But I don't. I go to quite a lot of different venues,
Hmm.
and to try and get in tune. It's like these young guys that you're talking about. They're going to those venues like Tunnel, Lindome. They are so difficult to beat. But for any of us to turn up on the day
Oh
and
no,
go,
no,
that overshotting's absolute doddle,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But you're not just quite right.
No, of course.
Right,
Well, you might
speed.
catch 300.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah.
catch 330.
Yeah.
Feeding,
Yeah.
right,
You
and
know.
all that. If you're good enough, or if you're lucky enough to draw the bag on the day with a little bit of wind, and you do it right, you're going to be hard to beat. But for me and you, and going to all these different venues all over the country to fish these matches is bloody hard. It's really hard because there's like you can go to one. I'll just take this for example, silverfish fishing. You can go to Lindome and catch on worms during the winter, possibly. There's quite a few venues, isn't there? You can catch.
Yeah.
You go to my local venues. It's like putting cyanide in.
You can't put worms in at Hallcroft in the winter.
It's like that.
Not
No,
a chance.
They
But
must
you
come
might
up
go
to it and
somewhere
go.
that's
They
brilliant.
must come up to it and get the diary out and go. It's not April, mate. What are you trying to do here? But it's true, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what.
Yeah.
That's what. That's
But you might
what
go to
are.
Midlands and need a
Need
kilo.
another
Kilo
worm.
worm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
And
right.
to try and coach someone that,
Yeah,
they're
you
like,
can't.
Let's do.
Yeah.
I'm like, mate, don't bother. And they're like, why? Well, you caught on them. I'm like, yeah, but that was 3 months ago. But that in your head, isn't it?
Don't make
You
sense.
can't
Yeah.
explain that. You can't explain how a fish comes up to a bait in April and go,
Nope.
nah, it's all right, mate.
Yeah, but I think that's what separates the elite. If that for me, if you were saying what is the magical answer to being that elite, when I say the best of the best, I think it's because you're constantly looking like you can catch a fish, and as you're bringing it in, you're going, well, if only
You're
I
thinking
did
about
like
something
that.
else.
Yeah.
If only I'd have had that hook. If only I had this maggot. If only
Isn't
I.
it,
Yeah.
isn't it great though when I go, like when you go like I went to Bitterwell last Tuesday for the silverfish final. They do like this thing. They say put like a £2 per person. It's great. It's like a little mini. they
What, like
do
a
it.
golden peg or something?
No, it's like a mini final.
It
Oh,
just
right,
builds
okay.
up over
It's
the year.
brilliant.
Oh,
Oh, right.
brilliant.
Because everybody's buzzing for the final, even though it's like 20 pegs.
Yeah.
Right.
But you go there and try and explain to people because I always try and be like, truthful about your fishing, and you try and catch over your little bit of ground bait, which you do, and then it all goes funny, right? And everybody's like, I can't get a bite, and you've had a few, and everybody's had a few, and you think, right, you put your little dolly on,
Yeah.
tap 20 maggots, 30 maggots past both ground bait lines, right? And now that's going. Now you go back to your rotation, right? You drop it on the ground bait, you get one. Then you go in again, can't get one. You think, right, let's get me dolly on here.
Onto your maggots.
Onto your maggots, got another one. Right? Now,
Yeah.
trying to teach someone that, and you've done that on your other line as well.
Yeah.
So you're topping up your ground baits,
Yeah.
but you're also topping up your maggot line.
How do you even get to that point? Like, how do you even get to
Brilliant,
that? Like,
though, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is the day
It
that
is.
made you go, if I just put 5 maggots half a metre past, I'll catch on that?
It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I come home, I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
that to
something.
me is
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm tying rigs.
Yeah, so you don't
That night.
you don't need
What?
Fish O Final. You're like, I want good fishing. I want fishing that I can learn
Yeah.
and understand, and that is exactly how my
I love
brain
it.
works. Yeah.
And
I
like feeder, sorry, I'm talking over everybody. But and I was only chatting
love
to
it.
someone about this yesterday, right? When I used to go to Gold Valley, I used to have this conversation with Will, and it was really cold in the winter, team fishing.
Yeah.
So every point was like crucial. So on Gold Lake, beautiful lake, skimmers they wouldn't come on the pole. You'd feed the pole because you were hoping late on you would catch a
Cast
few.
out,
Sometimes you
maybe,
did,
yeah.
sometimes you didn't. But you'd be on a bomb and they'd have a feeder line at like 30 metres, little cage. So you chuck a few in at the start, you're fishing with a carp, then it's like, can't go on the pole yet, got to fish a little cage. Shut the cage in, minute, whoop, got one. £1.50, £2, whatever, right, get that in. Now, I've caught that fish within 2 minutes. Chuck it out again. No, right, I'm going to leave that for 5 minutes, right? Now, I've had a bite. Now, you chuck it out again, 2 minutes, got one. Think, right, I'm going to chuck out every 2 minutes now, or 3 minutes maximum.
Yeah.
Don't work,
No.
right? You cannot keep. Then you've got to sit there for 20 minutes
Just to get the chance
before
of
you
2
have
minutes.
another
That's
cast.
crazy. Yeah, that is unbelievable.
Oh,
And I've had this conversation with Will so many times. Oh, well, what are they doing?
Yeah. Yeah. It's unbelievable. I
think it's awesome.
It is awesome.
It's frustrating.
It is awesome, but that is one of my favourite things where you can you go, I'm expecting a fish within 2 minutes, but if I keep casting in every
That's
2
it.
minutes, I will not catch one ever.
Same on
So
the
I've
pole.
got to almost leave it enough to give
Yeah.
myself
Come
a
back to it
chance of
again.
the 2 minute.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
But what's that all about?
I've got no idea.
Underwater. That's what underwater footage.
Yeah,
should
yeah,
be
that's what-
doing.
Yeah, but the trouble is, even when you've got the underwater footage, you're like,
It's gonna-
because
no,
everyone's
not the same.
different. Everything, every venue's different. The clarity, the non-clarity. You just said there, worms at one place, not worms at the other.
I know.
Isn't that what makes fish? And that's what I feel.
It's the beauty of the wild animals, aren't they? That's the beauty of fishing.
But don't you feel like your fishing background and I mean, take yours, Andy, for example, all the natural venues you've done, everything you've done, it builds to this world of experience.
Oh, of course it does, yeah.
And world of knowledge.
It's
that
good that you
makes
can like
go.
drop back, lend your hand to anything, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, it'll
I
take.
think that's what the
quite a
younger
bit.
generation now, they don't see that.
No, but they.
But that's not, that's what it is.
yeah.
That's how it's changed.
But
That's
they
what it
can
is
get.
now.
They can. I mean, Rob Swan joined our Barnsley team this year and or
he's a
last
fullback
year,
as well, I suppose.
and he was
Surprised-
yeah.
If you're listening, Rob, sorry about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, probably is. I think he's off travelling the world now for 6 months. But
Is he?
yeah,
What's he
yeah.
up to?
Oh, I know he's 6 months travelling and then
Oh.
6 months bagging up, and there's
That'll
know,
do,
like, yeah. Oh, it's hard life, isn't it? You
Oh,
know,
but yeah.
but he was talking about overshotting rigs.
What's going on?
And I was like, well, this will be interesting because I'm assuming it's like a little Olivet or maybe like 2 number 8s or something like that. Anyway, he's come on. He's like, right, you need your shot every like 6 inches.
Mm.
I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. So I said, right. So where's your float? Well, no, this is on my overshot rig. Okay, so what? You got 2 number 8s and then another 6 inches. You got 3 number 8s and then you got another block of 3 number 8s. I'm like, right. He said, and that's your 3-foot rig. Then you need one 2.5, and that's got shot. And I'm like, oh my God, you've refined
Yeah.
this
it's
element.
mad.
Yeah.
Not-
And he could teach me what to do.
yeah.
And I thought, you could go and tell this to my son and explain what to do, explain the casters, give him the rigs, and he could catch £100 for dinner.
Yeah.
Right. And
100%.
that is the difference, because that little, like what you were talking about there with the, I've got to leave it to cast in. That's what made you stand out.
I love
Gold
it.
Valley. And that's what I love about fishing. That's
Yeah.
what I think.
There's nothing better. And then like flicking, and then it goes from
Going
like
past
you're
it.
catching a few on past, and the only way you can get a bite then is flicking your rig past the whole
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
That's
even
ridiculous.
And
how
then
that
instead
works,
of
isn't it?
catching 10, you're catching 25 pound.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, how have you? And I'm like, but they don't, and also don't work quite hard. You've got to work hard at that. It's like quite busy fishing.
It don't always work either, does it?
No,
Like,
it
sometimes you
don't.
flick
Oh no, you
past
want to?
and you
That's
go,
another van explosion on the way home. Isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Not the night here. Yeah, definitely.
That's another service light. That's an engine management light.
Tell us a little bit about that, Andy, because I know when you've fished in some of these big finals and you've won those silverfish finals, that they're the sort of things you don't just sit there, do you? Loose feeding, for example. I know loose feeding twice is great. You
Yeah.
loose feed 20 casters once.
Yeah.
It's not the same as feeding 10 casters twice.
No, definitely not.
How does that even like?
I know it's like so. It's something I used to do like years and years ago on Suez Canal at Cudmore when it was full of chub, barbel, tench, crucians, not just carp, and it was always this double feed. So you'd put like your 20 in. I think the initial lot that you put in, the fish hear the noise, so they come to it, and then the next lot they put in.
Bit of confusion.
That's
isn't
what takes them down to where you're fishing, and it's just incredible how it
Mm.
works. Then you take that to like natural venues, and when they're having it properly, certainly on that short line, it works, and things like fishing past it. But that double feed. So going back to the Medlands, let's go back to the Medlands one now. 2024, the silverfish
You
final.
won that one, didn't you?
Well, that's what I thought I'd mention.
Oh,
it.
okay. You've read that.
And then
yeah.
then
I
I'm
was
done.
there.
I'm out of here then.
I was there watching you.
Yeah.
Was you opposite?
I was I
Yeah.
went opposite. I was in the wind. I had a
Oh, go ahead,
full-blown
go ahead.
Eastleigh.
So
Yeah, I
Remember
remember
that
that.
one?
I remember that day.
I
Yeah.
remember
my
it.
pole where I
It was on my back. Yeah, it was on my
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
We literally like the day before. We had I've told this story loads of times. We had a nightmare. I'd been skiing, Well, I broke a leg. I'd done my leg in.
I remember. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah.
So I plumbed this short line up. Think I'm going to catch a load of fish. Done my long line. Doing what I need to do on that long line.
Are you going to tell us what you've actually done? Or
No.
fine,
That's for
fine.
another day. That
Great.
is. So started off on the short line. Everyone around me is like fishing a metre past me and catching one a choke. And I've 20 minutes in, still not got a bite. So I'm like flipping. I've started it too short. So I've got another section of pole out, plumbed it up, and me floats here, my pole tips here. I'm like, I'm gonna have to add some line. So I added some line. Yeah, put it to that depth, and where I've been like feeding, I carried on feeding there, fishing a full metre past
So,
it.
so you've
and it was
feeding,
one a choke.
you fed where you're originally feeding.
Yeah.
You've dropped a metre past it, and the fish are there.
Like ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've had one
From
a choke
no
for like
bites.
from no bites for 20
Incredible,
minutes.
incredible.
And I've one a choke for like 40 minutes.
On pellets.
No, on
Yeah,
maggots,
maggots.
casters.
Oh, I thought you caught on pellets.
I did long.
Yeah, but that's you're
Ah,
talking about a short line.
that short
yeah,
line.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
like phenomenal, like flick of a switch.
Well, I mean, what even is that?
I
Like,
don't
what
know,
even
but
is
then
that?
I started because it went a bit slow, so I started feeding on me float, and it was just wouldn't get a bite again. So I fed short again, and it was like,
Mad,
is that what
isn't
I'm
it?
saying?
Yeah, yeah,
It is
it's
mad.
absolutely incredible.
Just nuts.
Because you
Dreadful.
can't believe that they're not eating the.
No.
I just feel like I imagine that there's not quite as many as you think, and like you imagine if there's choice on the bottom, they can't pick your bait out. Can
Yeah,
they?
yeah, yeah.
Whereas if there's choice at the end of this table, there's still fish here, isn't there?
That's the
So-
trouble with
so-
feeder fishing. You can't replicate that.
No,
Can you, really?
feeder fishing? We've had it in feeder fishing
Where
where
you want to
like,
fish past, but
well,
you really can't.
Sometimes
Yeah.
when you're feeder fishing, you catch inside because what happens is as you wind back,
Yeah.
you drag your bait back every time.
Yeah.
So naturally, as the day goes on, you're dragging this line backwards. So like, sometimes you can
There's some bits
come
on the
inside it. Sometimes you can go past it. I've had it in feeder fishing where you can go 5 meters past, which seems a ridiculous distance. But when you actually think about the reality of 5 meters, it is nothing. It is absolutely nothing. So sometimes, because you fish on the pole, don't you? Sometimes,
But how can you
You know,
go to
5 and
vet
10
like
metres.
Tamar? I've had it at Tamar when I've been chucking like 36 meters, right? You know what the black and white
yeah,
coast what it is, because it's a tough area that at the moment,
Yeah.
or it has been this year. And you go, oh, you're thinking, how come? Don't panic just yet. Pellet feeder, normal feeder, and you're catching roach and perch.
yeah.
You think this is, I'm running out of time here. I've got to do something. Right, so you get your 42 meter rod,
Yeah.
4 meter, no, what, 6
6 metres,
meters,
yeah.
which is not very far, is it?
There's nothing.
Chuck it out of that. Skimmer.
Yeah.
You're like,
Well, I mean,
it might be 3 foot difference in depth,
Yeah.
and the roach
Maximum.
and perch will not go that further.
Yeah, it's incredible. And what blows my mind is the skimmers won't come closer.
No,
That's what I do not understand. Like it's so. It
but
must.
that's another engine management day, isn't
No,
it?
I think you find it at some venues the fish are happy at a certain depth. Obviously, different venues it's the same depth constantly throughout, but other venues where it does slope off a little bit deeper, the happy
trickier,
being
isn't
Well,
it?
just
Depth,
talk about Medlands. So where why you're fishing casters and that's short for roach, odd perch, maybe a skimmer.
Yeah,
But you feed your pellets long for skimmers.
Yeah.
Why don't you feed your pellets short?
I know.
They won't come into that depth. Not at that time of year. You go there in the middle of summer, they'll be crawling up the edge.
Oh yeah, catch them shallow.
We
and
fished
also.
a pairs match at Hallcroft, and but by the time you finish that league, you are fishing out in the middle, 2 bloodworms sitting for an odd skimmer. I watched an angler catch 5 bream off the next pallet right in the first round, and I'm like, oh my god,
Missing out on that.
Yeah, we
Flipping
didn't.
out.
Well,
Possibly.
well, yeah, because you didn't
Didn't
catch
have
any
it
out in the lake because
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the fish. We just talked about a warm summer. We had a dollop of rain. All the fish were living in this much water.
Yeah,
So the only place they could actually get there
And
was
feed-
in the
feed
edge.
is in
But
the
it
edge.
was only at the end of the day when they're prepared to come into that depth. It's incredible, really, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's a big learning curve, isn't it?
oh yeah.
But it
definitely.
never
every time we go
stops. It
fishing.
never ever
You-
stops.
Brilliant.
does it?
That's
You
the beauty of
learn,
it.
but you also
That's why we
you
love it so
learn, but you
much, isn't it?
don't learn in a way because every time you go slightly different.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And I think that's what, when we used to fish Whiteacres, which has come up, I've heard in various podcasts,
Yeah.
Porth was in and all the rest of it, that was why I think our generation considered it the main event.
That was so
Because
good.
you went down there and you fished against all the best anglers
Yeah.
on a massive variety. Because at Belingi, you were catching £100 plus a carp. But then you go on the match lake and you might have to catch you might be in a section
might have
where you
to
don't
catch
even
40
catch a
pound of
carp.
silver.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got it.
Up them arms and that.
Yeah, or you
Yeah.
might draw on the main bit and you've got to catch 8 carp. You've got to manage your day to catch 8 carp, not 50, or whatever it might be. And then you go to a lake that was full of F1s.
Yeah.
And you'd be fishing for F1. So the variety
Oh, it was
is
awesome back in the day.
incredible. Yeah, absolutely
It's awesome, wasn't
incredible.
it?
So, and I think that's what, you've got coming up. So 2026, Andy, coming up.
Yes.
What are you going to be looking at and focusing on?
So hopefully I'll be in both Silvers finals from
Yeah.
qualifying this year, but definitely Fisho again. Fisho's always my first one. Tickets come out nice and early, so get the first one in, then just get what I can within an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then I sort Golden Reel and maybe match this. I'd love to do, what I'd love to do, Lee, is more festivals, that kind of thing, but it's just my coaching. I only do 1 day a week now for everything else. That's done, dusted already next year and into 2027.
One day a week. Is that it?
That's all I can do with everything else.
You need
Des.
to apologise.
Busy.
I do apologise, but I have got a reserve list. But yeah, that's it, done and dusted. But I'd love to do more festivals and that. I love festivals. I think they're brilliant. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That kind
and
of
there's
thing.
been an explosion of these more like 2-3
Little
day
mini
festivals.
festivals.
As well,
Yeah.
which give you an opportunity to do it. But the trouble is, you've said it before, if you've got children or
Yeah,
a young
family-
family
yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
you've
It's
got,
difficult.
yeah, because if you fish a festival, you're either staying away,
Yeah.
or if you travel it, you won't be home until 7.
No, not a chance.
So
That is a good
And I'm
thing
missing
about
out
a
on too
festival,
much.
isn't it? You're staying away.
yeah, you're
It
staying
is.
away.
It is good.
Yeah,
That's what I used to.
absolutely
I used to live for. I used to love white takers going down there.
I think it's actually her waving to you, Des, to be fair.
Yeah.
I don't think it's...
Go on, just get
She's
him
like,
off.
isn't there a festival next week, Des? You're like, I think you should be on that.
So I was like, that's a good idea. I'll try it.
Well, I'll come with you.
Yeah.
But no, that's the beauty. That was the attraction of white takers for me. Definitely.
What,
Just
going
being
away?
there. Oh yeah, I've said it out loud now. But yeah, no. Before we had kids and that, it's a little bit different now. I wouldn't want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's too
No,
much time
it's
away.
different. So Fisho, I want to touch on Fisho before we move on.
Go ahead.
So for a long time, Fisho was carp dominated.
Yeah.
Hayfield.
Yeah.
And a few others. And this last couple of years or 3 years now?
Yeah,
4 years, 3
Westwood.
years,
Yeah.
has been Westwood. Now, that is a completely different. I mean, I hadn't even been there. That blew my mind. when
Yeah,
I went.
I think as far as fair venues go, I don't think there's ever been a final where up until the last half an hour, any one of like 6, 7, 8 anglers have been in with a chance of winning. So it's the fairest venue that's ever been.
As fair as fishing's going to be.
Oh yeah,
Because there's still half the
There's
pegs
still
you're
gonna-
never winning off.
Oh,
Do you
of
know
course
what I
there
Do
mean?
you know what's so good about that? I've not been there. Same. I actually went there one year with Preston and done a stand, but I reckon most of the anglers would come off there going,
I could have
Had a
done that.
chance.
engine management job again, isn't it?
yeah.
That is unusual to have that many
Have you had
people.
an issue with engine management?
Oh, mate, it's in the garage most weeks.
Flipping out. Yeah, so as fair as venues can be. My own issue, I thought Hayfield was a perfect venue for it because you could. It was carp.
You can get
but
out of trouble.
rod
can't
and
you?
line.
He feels
yeah.
like you can get out of trouble at Hayfield with the size of fish.
Yeah,
possibly.
definitely. Like feeder
It
fishing.
had an
yeah,
arena,
wagler
though.
fishing
It
to come
was an
into.
arena.
Arena was brilliant, but it was
No,
it was-
I'm sorry. I mean, at Hayfield, it was like
that
an
arena,
arena.
yeah.
You know, because
Yeah,
you got
definitely.
sloped banks. Like
Yeah.
the crowd were staggered behind you. You know,
Yeah.
it had a magic. I always felt
Yeah.
Hayfield.
definitely.
Um,
I think Rich has got it bang on. He suggested change the venue, let it go one venue, say like Westwood for the next 2 years, and then for 2 years go to Hayfield, and then for 2 years go to somewhere like Springvale. Keep mixing it between them 3
Yeah,
venues. I think that's a
good
brilliant
idea. That.
No, absolutely. And if you've got the venues to do that,
Yeah.
which I believe we have in
We
this
have.
country, because I think there was a time when Westwood wouldn't even be considered.
No.
You had to have a certain needs of the TV and that but I think they've realised they can do it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
They can do it. The only thing I noticed I would like to see when I went to Westwood is they have that middle part of the lake that isn't particularly good,
Yeah.
but they leave it out. What I would love to see there is basically like a 6 or 7 peg match from like locals. They go-
Silverfish. I'll be in
they-
that.
they-
Oh, right. So,
they go,
yeah, so everyone's
right,
fishing.
listen, you're fishing the same time as all the competitors.
Yeah.
There's going to be cameramen and that walking around you. Tough. Do you want to come and fish? And all, the guys who fish their weekend would love to
Yeah,
put their
yeah,
box
yeah.
down and be part of that. Like, we're just going to, we'll all have a tenner, lads. And just because, obviously, that, it clear, and
I
nearly
know,
this year again, I know you have a blocker, but
Yeah.
a blocker's nothing. For me, a one angler block, if there is a gap in a lake, it will naturally be where more fish congregate. So I'd love to. Sometimes I think to myself,
fill it up.
they've got a lake there to fill
normally,
up, and they did that on Arena brilliantly because they put the junior match there,
the internationals,
or the internationals, or whatever it was to create non-end pegs. And as a result, there was always a good area, which there is.
To be fair to Westwood, though, it's never been one of that MPEG. Dave Shires
won
but
it.
Other than
Steve
that,
Openshaw nearly
did
it. My point is, I know what
you mean.
I agree with you completely.
Yeah, definitely.
I do agree.
That'd make it good, that.
But I think if you did it, it's the only thing I looked at when I went there. I thought, do you know what? Because it's a brilliant place for it.
Yeah.
Like I think Westwood and that lake is epitomising what modern commercial fishing has become, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You don't have to like it. It's not my style of fishing.
Everything that's there, the whole thing, like the pub, the lodges.
It's this deep. It's this deep. Everybody's got their rigs on the top kits when they get there.
Yeah.
Which, again, I don't like, but that doesn't mean it has to be right. As far as I'm concerned, I think that is match fishing, isn't it? At the moment, commercial match fishing.
That's lots of it.
All these lads. I mean, and I'm using Rob Swan again. He was on the practice match because he was in the final.
Yeah.
And literally, I looked at it and he's got like a rig case kit with like 30 rigs. And he's not going to set them all up, but he's literally like, oh, right. Yeah, I need 2 of those ones. And I mean, in a big heap. You know, it's not like all nice. And I'm like, I'm not looking
in a
at
big
him,
heap, but it's got no rigs on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's got all the rigs on it. It's got all his rigs on it because he knows the deepest peg on the complex is
that's it.
It's done.
There's that little bit where Brad won from that's deep, and then when I went with Dave, Shires filmed a live match, 20 inches was his deepest bit of his peg.
Absolutely mad.
Mental. So you just don't need any rigs, do you?
No.
So, I say you need lots of rigs, but you don't need any line or variation, do you? So I mean, is that a venue that you think, do you know, I can win there?
I'd love to, absolutely love to get through to Westwood. I know, obviously, again, it comes down to the draw, but just a venue, I'm proper. I'd love to get my teeth into.
When I went there with Preston that day, I walked around. I had about 45 minutes where I went and walked in the last probably an hour and so. And Jamie was, I can't remember what peg it was about 2 years ago, and he was getting a liner.
Oh yeah,
every
feed any amount of baits, like
chuck. He was up and down constantly, and I was like, and he's just foul looking them. I think he lost quite a few foul lookers that day. I think. Yeah. He was long that straight. Andy Powers was in that bend.
Yeah.
And then Jamie was long here.
Yeah.
And I literally, it's just up and down constantly. Like I didn't go and watch it. There was too many people there. But yeah, I was like, geez, that must be an absolute head job.
I hadn't seen anything like it when I went. Like you can actually see if you sit there setting up, you just see an odd tail. You don't see a bubble. Where a fish up ends, it's so shallow, you see the tail.
Is it?
And it's like, what?
Mad.
Like, what? And you can feed any, like you say, you feed any bait, and all of a sudden, because it's so soft,
just
the
go
bottom's just blown up. But there will be ways, won't there?
Yeah,
there
of course
always
there will.
is ways.
Yeah,
always. They catch them. They don't. Everybody doesn't just sit there and blank. So I look at that and think, if that was your goal, you could go and focus and put the time in there. And
if you're on it,
and Dave Shires, obviously, when he won, he was very. When I spoke to him the following year and he'd been practicing and all the rest of it, I thought, you are into this.
Oh,
you know every little element. You know what they're talking about, whether you feed 8 casters or 15. Like where it's incredible.
I have a slight problem with that.
Yeah. It's not like us, is it?
You've got to have a lot of tails.
Just feed them all.
But you understand what I mean, don't you?
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
The differences that
I'm more like
they're
70
the
or 100.
quickest ones to change, and they're the ones that are on it proper.
Yeah, and obviously, looking on to how Brad won last year, he's looking like a shoe-in to win after 2 and a bit hours. Then it's like, well, they've completely gone. He's not going to win.
And then he's changed some, hasn't he? Started blasting it.
And they've come back.
Incredible.
They've come back to him. So
you won't bet against him again. Well, he'll just stay on now, won't he? You know what I mean? You don't have to qualify.
Which I think is great. What do you think that's great, isn't it? I think it's great.
Didn't do it our day, though, did he?
Yeah.
I mean,
it
is. I think so.
You should do that in the Feeder Masters, top 3.
Yeah, no, it is.
I'd like to. Have one less qualifier, but I think I'm not going to say it's easier to qualify for Feeder Masters. It is. It's easier than it is Fishermania because you get 3 qualifiers out of 60. So I actually believe in Fishermania. It's a fantastic thing to have the reigning champion a chance to qualify. And I think it's like part of because qualifying in itself is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been lucky to be sit down in it before, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, you know, it's difficult.
Oh,
It's
very
a
difficult.
hard thing to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Definitely.
but you'll be setting out to try and achieve.
So that's the one, yeah, definitely. And obviously, Golden Reels as well, and Maven Match this is. I'd love to get through to Maven Match this, Hayfield. I'd love to have a do at that. The final this year, flipping heck, it was incredible, wasn't it? Just ridiculous weights everywhere at Hayfield.
Fish
Maven
well,
Match,
didn't it?
Yeah,
like,
Fish well.
unbelievable.
that on those two lakes there. That was the last one I was in, and unfortunately something happened on the big lake, and it fished really, really poorly.
Right.
And I was gutted because I fished a couple of practice matches on the other lakes, and they were incredible.
Right,
And
okay.
then after that, they moved it back to the two Adams, and I was just like,
Ah, right, okay. On the island,
"God,
right.
I'd love
yeah,
to
yeah.
have been on there."
But now Ireland again is like flipping ridiculous.
Yeah, and it will be
Crazy amount of fish.
and it'll be fantastic, won't it?
Such
I mean,
a good
it's
venue.
They're moody, aren't they? Them big lakes can be moody, can't
Yeah,
they?
they can be
They can be
moody,
moody.
yeah.
And if they're moody,
yeah.
they can hide. They can go somewhere and
That's
go,
right,
tell you
yeah.
what, come back next week, lads. On a little snake lake, no matter
Ain't
how
anywhere
moody
to
they
hide.
are, they're somewhere. aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah, ain't got anywhere to hide.
Yeah, but it's nice to have it's a bit of diversity, isn't it? Because, like you say, it's Hayfield. It couldn't be more different to Westwood.
No, that's it.
So now you've got two big finals. that
Yeah.
I actually think when they were both at Hayfield, as nice as that is for Hayfield, it is nice to have variety, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and I think what you're saying that Rich is saying there is brilliant.
It's a great idea.
good
Wouldn't it
idea,
be
yeah.
great to have but it's difficult 'cause sometimes for these fisheries they put a lot of time and effort and commitment in setting it up for fish show, and they then don't want it removed, do they?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's hard. So.
Yeah. I think all three of them are different. Obviously, you've got Westwood at Snake Lake, Hayfield that's obviously open water, all tactics come in, and then Larford with the Golden Reel. It's like big deep water carp fishing.
They put it on the Specie,
I
didn't
think it's
they?
good.
Yeah, it's on
Didn't
Specie
they?
now.
I think that was
Yeah,
good.
the last
That
2 years.
Good lake to have it on, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
Big
think, again,
Specie.
it got a bit tired on the match late, didn't it? You know, like because
Yeah.
we've seen so many finals there.
Yeah.
You know, to move it onto the Specie was interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he's on about moving it back to the match lake.
Is he?
'Cause I did do some filming there with Zolt, and
I mean,
he didn't.
it
He
still
did
wouldn't,
say
wouldn't it?
he might move it back. I said no, keep it on the Specie, even though I probably won't even qualify. But I just said I think for like when you can catch a 20, 30
Oh, yeah.
pound carp, 2 or 3 carp. There's
That's
nothing
it, you're
better
right
than
back
that,
in
is
it,
there?
aren't
It might not happen,
I
but
think
if
that's
it
what you want
does,
in these finals. You want to feel as though you got a chance, and on lakes
Yeah.
like that,
You have, haven't you?
you've always got a chance going into like the last
Yeah.
whatever. You know what I mean? The year that Zach won it the first year, it was only 90 odd pounds. You know what I mean? I've had like what 20
better
odd-
matches there, weren't they?
20 pounds.
Just
Yeah,
like that.
three and four more bites. That's it. I'd have been
Yeah,
set
you're
back
done.
up there. You know, so you always feel as though you got a chance. Like
So you're saying that you focus more on, so you're going at fish show and you're going, right, I'm going to go and do these fish shows.
Yeah.
And if I get time, I'll do the other ones.
Yes.
Whereas I'm guessing you, Des, would go, I want to go to these venues. Like, so you're going, are you like, do you know what? I love all those competitions. And as long as I'm going to try to qualify for them all, but I'll try and qualify in the venues I want to go to. You're not going to drive to Lindome, are you, to go to a fish show when you could go to,
No.
say, Tunnel Barn for a Maver?
Yeah, I do
I'm
look at
guessing.
it like that. Obviously, fish shows to me is like I don't do that many. I probably do like 6 fish shows, probably maybe less, because sometimes I've double booked and I forgot about it, so I got to sell the tickets. So
You
that,
haven't
no-
booked it.
that
You
normally
haven't- you
Engine
that
management
normally-
lights
come on,
on
yeah,
it.
that
That's
normally
why.
that normally comes on. But yeah, I do actually look at it now because traveling is horrible. You know, I'm not going to lie, it is. You know,
You're doing it a long time. As
yeah,
well.
it takes it out on you. You know, if you go fishing, you're up at, if you've got to travel 2.5, 3 hours possibly, you know, you're up at 5.
Yeah.
You're flat out. Match fishing, as we know, it ain't like carp fishing where they can have a, I'll tell you what, let's get a cat on.
Yeah.
Beep, beep. Oh, hello. Here we go. It ain't like that. It's a full on, you know, concentration. You know, then there's like a big thing at the end, isn't there? You go, whew, no matter how you've done, then you've got to travel 2.5 hours. And I find myself a lot now where if I've had a good day, you're buzzing.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I've got something to have a chat about. Someone to phone you up on the way home, or I'll phone them because I'm in a good mood. I might not even answer my phone if I've had a bad day. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not answering that.
That block.
Very rare
So
that you are
mostly-
in the good mood.
Yeah. So, and then I literally find myself now getting on the motorway within like 20 minutes. I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
hello.
Yeah.
I need to pull over.
Yeah.
And I find, I don't know, you know, it's just the boredom of driving.
I think when you've done it for a long time as well.
You know, I used to travel with people and I don't anymore. That's not because I've not got any friends. Like Callum does his own thing. Sometimes I'll travel with Callum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if he's going to the same venue, but obviously he's got a a young family, so he needs to get back. Like,
wants to
look,
get
I've
back,
got to
yeah.
come home. I
Yeah.
can't hang around.
Yeah.
So I'm driving myself.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that. Mayo obviously went to Thailand. He jacked me in and went to Thailand.
See what you do to people, Des.
I know.
Flipping heck,
I
mate.
know.
Familiar pattern there.
Honestly.
isn't it?
Yeah, ruined them.
Yeah. That's
But yeah, I do look at it and go, you know, with Zoe, I say, right. She's like, what do you want to do? Right, tunnel. Yeah, no problem.
yeah.
Hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And look at it like that. And I might sneak.
That's what I'm saying. So it's
You know.
like, what can I do? Because now there is so much choice.
Yeah, there is.
You can do Feeder Masters,
Yeah.
Match This, Fish
Yeah,
Show,
yeah.
Golden
I've
Reel.
got a thing, probably like you two. Fish Show was the first thing
Yeah.
televised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Barrier was involved. Like it was just one of them things. You think I just love to qualify for Fish Show.
Mm.
The others, for me, Feeder Masters is second. Well, Feeder Masters for me is probably first, really.
Yeah.
Because I love the concept of it. I like the payout. I like the whole thing. Tamar
Yeah.
is
Brilliant.
great because it's not too far from me. The fishing is incredible, and we've spoke about it, haven't we? Because you've obviously said, where do you go where every single person comes off of there and gone? If you've caught £20 at Tamar, you feel like you should have caught 30.
There's not a single
Oh,
person
right,
that walks
okay.
off. You never, ever walk off the bank going,
I've
bought
sorted that.
Never. It's impossible.
Really?
You
No.
can't do it.
What venue then?
You can't even. You cannot have the perfect
No.
day there. I don't believe it's
No,
possible.
no, you're dead right.
And that is what makes it so incredible.
But how do you, and you
always
said,
know
didn't you? How do you change? How do you
How-
go somewhere?
when you've got the best of the best of the best.
It's incredible.
And you like, oh my god, I don't even know. And it changes every year.
Yeah.
I could have won this year. I was 9th and I could have won without
Yeah.
a doubt. I'm £6 from
Flipping
winning,
heck, right.
and I know
£6 and you
I
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I was 2 ounces.
Yeah.
Were you there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't know if you
And-
knew
and
that.
Did you drop any fish off or anything, mate?
A few.
Yeah.
And your
But-
management.
But that's
Yeah,
the point.
yeah.
But if you speak to Steve, who's won it,
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll say,
Yeah,
I
of
could have
course he's
caught
had.
another £5-6, you know. Like,
That's over 2 days.
Exactly. The
Flipping
way
heck.
it goes, you always make, and I've had it when I've won, and I finished, and I've gone, you know, I got lucky there.
Yeah.
I made the decisions and probably got myself another £3 more than I should, but I still could have had £3 more. Always, you know. So it's an incredible place to go and
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
it's
have
mega.
fishing. But yeah, so you're looking at those events, aren't you?
Yeah.
And trying to pick them.
Like for me, Maver, Golden Reel this year, I didn't do any because everything else got in the way.
Yeah.
And next year, I think it'll probably be very the same. I'll do some festivals like Tamar. I love that. Even though
Stafford Moor as well, didn't you? Down there a bit.
Stafford Moor, I go
Yeah.
down there in March.
Des, would you do some pair match with me?
No, definitely not. I've actually had Salt.
I don't think you do a pairs
I've
match
asked Salt
on
to
his-
come and do a
his
Tamar
garden,
festival with
would
me
he?
because he can stay with me in Westy.
Be great.
So,
wouldn't it?
yeah,
I'd
it
love
would
to see
be.
you guys there. Right, we're going to get a brew.
I
A couple
reckon.
more topics to cover when we come back, but I think we need to top up, don't we?
I need
Go on, the
to
Bruce.
top up the toilet.
Right, we've all had a break. We are back.
Terminator time.
Do it.
It would back. So I do it. So I do my.
Please,
Can I
please
do?
don't. Please,
Oh,
please.
I want to do my Rambo.
This has just spent the 20-minute break. Like,
I want to do my Rambo thing.
Well,
Perfecting it,
If
mate, and
anybody
everything.
knows Rambo out there, this is the thing
Go
when
on,
he's
go on, go on.
Murdoch. I'm coming for you.
yeah. So the 20th time we've had that.
Perfection, that, mate.
You,
That was done, that
You
was
delivered it perfectly. mate. You
Have a look
delivered
at Rambo.
it. Yeah, perfect.
You'll know exactly what I'm on about.
Yeah, the young pups won't know.
So we are going to move on to the next topic of this podcast, and it's something that has been really, I think, 2025. The angling world, match fishing world, has been dominated by talk of this. In fact, it's something for the last 2 or 3 years that's become really hot, and that is. I'm not going to I don't want to just say overshotted rigs. I just want to say the crudeness of which we are learning to catch fish and the weights in which and the ways in which we're doing it. Is that changing who we are? Have we got to be more broad and open-minded on it? Have we got to go, yeah, okay, this is the world? Or have we got a responsibility as match anglers to try and go, hang on a minute, we just need a little bit more thought and process. I'd love to know your takes on it. I'd love to know what you think about it. Andrew, I'm going to start with you.
In what way do you think there's? You mean like because they're catching too many fish?
I'm not going to say
that
that
kind
we're
of
catching
thing,
too many
or-
fish. I will kick it. Okay, I will lead with
Go
my
on.
general thoughts. My concern is that we have simplified the way in which we catch fish. Now, in some degrees, that is great. You go, brilliant. Somebody who owns a pole can ship it across to the rushes and can move it up and down like this while feeding a bit of bait, can catch £150 of
Yeah.
F1s. They can
Yeah.
ship F1s back where they couldn't before. And now it means that you see, well, I'll take that Tunnel Barn Masters where they are, and all the pole fishing masters and all those events, the anglers that win are brilliant.
Yeah.
I definitely see a broader spectrum of anglers now within the top 30 than it was. Now, is that because anglers are getting better, or is that because the methods of catching have become more simplified and therefore it sort of like not levels the playing field? Because I don't think it levels the playing field. I actually think it makes
No.
it worse. It depends on the peg that you've got.
Yeah.
And I worry that because I am so invested in international fishing and
Yeah.
and elite fishing,
Yeah.
I worry that we are preventing people from becoming
Good.
elite
Yeah.
by simplifying it.
Go on, I'll go first then. So I think
do.
first and foremost, if you're a good angler, you're a good angler. Turn you on to anything. Next up, I do a lot of that style of fishing, overshotting, because of the venues that I fish. I'd 100%, I would prefer to watch a float, fish it nice and tidy, flick the rig in, feed a bit of bait, hold a tight line, watch that float go under. You miss 4 or 5 bites, and you know, as soon as you put that other rig on, that's it, you're going to catch them fish. So it has changed it in that respect. It's one of them methods that you don't foul hook fish. You know what I mean? So I think it's kinder to the fish. You don't foul hook them, and there is there is technique. You've got to be doing it right to catch them. You know, you do need quite a few rigs set up. You've got to get your feeding right. If you don't, you can't just go windmilling baiting all over the place. That's not the way to do it. There's a certain technique to it. But I think first and foremost, ultimately, if you're a good angler, you should be able. You will learn to adapt. You know, to any style.
Do you think it's a physical skill that has come back into fishing? Because I often think fishing,
You're knackered at the end of it when you do it.
Yeah, you know that like the actual physical technique of fishing. I love feeder. One of the things I love about feeder fishing, you've got to cast accurately.
Yeah.
You've got to know how to put your feeder in and do it physically.
Yeah.
Pole fishing, like you talked about stick float. You love stick float
Yeah.
fishing. Again, you had to physically do that as a skill. Throwing a ball is a skill.
Yeah.
And I felt a lot of time with pole fishing, that was almost removed because we suddenly all had poles and we could put rigs in. But I've tried to do some of this like shake, and it's actually quite hard to do it. Like to get it the perfect little flick is quite difficult.
Do you know what? As a coach, I coach it a hell of a lot because obviously it's so popular, you know, especially on Snake Lakes. It's hard to tell someone because when you're slapping a rig, you're using your leg. You're putting your pole on your leg, using your knees momentum. When you're flicking a rig, it's your elbow. So when you try and combine them, you can't do it. You've got to get used to one or the other, and it's so hard to teach. Once you're stuck, I find it a lot easier to teach people who've not really done that style before, any style. Once you're set in your ways, it's so hard to teach someone out of that. But you're right, when you're fishing that at like 16 metres to cover or to open water or something like that, and that the pressure on the back of your elbow, it does take it out of you a bit.
To repetitive, and
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
You know, unless you move your pole and arm just right, you don't get the.
No.
I've watched them doing it, and they're flicking their pole tip
It's
like
like-
it's going slightly under, slightly out, slightly under, slightly out. And I'm thinking that's not easy to do. Like you've got to
Not
have
that
some
distance.
control.
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
got to have. So and you're right. Good anglers are good anglers, aren't
Yeah.
they? And they still move, but. My concern is that the reading of the fishing has changed when you're doing it. You know, like how are you reading what's going on? What are you using as the? Is it literally? Well,
Basically,
I'm
bite.
not getting.
A minute without a bite, you're going deeper. If you're looking in the bottom part of the lip, or you foul looking, you're coming shallower, looking for swirls and things like that. But usually, it's how you're feeding. You know, if you're not getting bites, I mean, obviously, you'd have a rig on, fishing on the bottom, see what's happening. You can tell there's liners there, foul looking fish, and then it's all about reading. And I'm talking inches, Lee.
I think that's the bit that I hate.
It's ridiculous.
With a float, I can read that,
Yeah.
and I feel like I can change it.
like you can with the quiver tip. You can see on the quiver tip
With
what's
that,
happening, yeah.
I'm like,
Blind. You feel blind.
I'm blind.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I don't want to do it because I can't see
Yeah.
what I need to read.
Yes.
that's what I hate about it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I think has. That's what I think separates some of the very best guys for a long time. Their read of fishing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I see as well? And I see about this in the shop is it's demoralising for the average guy. He doesn't just get beat by £80. He might be getting beat by 100 fish. That is an awful lot, and like I totally agree with what Andy said. The angler which is better will always possibly, not always, it depends on the venue and that. But I think it's demoralising. I had a couple of guys from come in the shop and they said, Des, we're going to go and fish the Daiwa Masters, right? And they live in my area and we ain't got loads of F1 fishing. And I'm like, fair play, have a go, right? But I did say, look,
unless you can do this technique.
Well, no, it was possibly before that. They might have just come in, and I said, "Look, I will be dead straight with you. I'll try and help you as much as I can. You know what baits? Because it's the same old what we were saying earlier. You don't know what baits you're going to need. You might need maggots, you might need casters.
Yeah.
Right. And both of them come back, and they were totally demoralised because they didn't just get beat; they got absolutely battered. And one of them just jack fishing in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think that's really sad.
Yeah.
And I know that can,
sad,
but that is F1 fishing for you because, like, it is that there's a lot of fish to be caught in there. It's not like catching big carp and stuff. But I felt really gutted. But I suppose in one respect you feel sorry, but then I was like, well, you need to go back and do it again. You need to go and practice it. You need to go and have a go at it.
All aspects.
And I'm behind. If I go to Tunnel or venues like that during the summer, and I've got to do that overshotted, I do a few rigs half-heartedly. I've spoken to you about it.
Yeah, there's a few rigs and then a few rigs. I mean, to do it proper, I mean, you're talking like 10, a dozen.
I just can't see the average guy. I can't see the average guy doing it.
Let's touch. Let's touch on it in a little bit more detail. So obviously, Andy, it's something that you are fully aware of, and so I'm going to Tunnel Barn, and I'm using Tunnel Barn because we all know it's the elite F1 match venue, and it has been for a long time. It's a fantastic venue. I'm going there and I need to set. I know that I've got to do this overshot to compete. What am I doing? How am I preparing for it? And how am I going to go and do it to the level that we think is now required?
I'd say minimum of, this is just for overshotting, minimum of 6 top kits from 8 inches down to 22 inches, something like that.
I'm not minimum. I'll be the best. How many do I need? You tell me. Do I need 10? Do I need 10 top kits? That's remarkable.
2-inch intervals. Then you need one for on the deck where you're fishing, and then a normal, what I call a checker rig through the water, find out where the fish are, that kind of thing. And you do need them.
You'd be setting up like from 3 foot to 6 inches, or is it less than that?
So let's say the depth's 3 foot.
Yeah.
You'd want them sort of like every 2 inches, maybe something like that, from like inches.
Yeah.
All the way down to like your depth of 2.5, 3 foot, something like that.
So, and it's a piece of line with a.
There's not many fishes now where you can't.
You've got to have a float on.
To be fair, if you didn't have to have a float, I'd still put a float on, because on that little flick, when you drop that rig back down to like neutral, so it's completely slack, it just takes your rig down a little bit slower. So it does actually help slow the.
So it's an overshotted with the float on.
Yeah, you got to have a float on. Inline dibber, it's got to be inline dibber, and however long you have your pole tips float. If there's no rules, then you want to put it right up to your knot, so like no more than an inch away.
Yeah.
But I think this tunnel still have the real 4 inches.
4 inches between the elastic and the float.
4 inches, and it's that bit, the flicking up, drop your rig down, that float, just a little bit of thingy through the water, a bit of, friction through the water, so it just takes your bait down a little bit slower.
So you've got to have 4 inches, sorry, because I don't go. So you've got to have 4 inches, right?
Yeah.
This is a tunnel.
But you can overshot your float.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's backward to me.
Well, yeah.
The float's not doing anything. If that,
It's just the fact that
it's just the rule always been there. You've got to have a float.
Yeah.
But if you didn't have to have a float on, you could just like use a bit of line. I'd still put a float on.
Yeah,
because it does slow your bait down.
Yeah, I understand.
And then the next thing is the shotting. So anything up to sort of what we're saying, 12 inches, 14 inches. It's a single bulker shot on. Some anglers like to use a long hook length, 6 inches. So it falls natural. I like to use 4 inches. bulk of shot, and I'm not talking load of shot. It's changed over the years. It used to be like a BB, then it went to number 8s, and now it's like number 10s or number 11s.
Okay.
So usually 3 number 11s, 2 number 10s to shot your float, 1 more number 10 to overshot it. When you're going a little bit deeper, that's when you have these little groups of like 2 number 10s.
Just to keep the line tight,
Yeah.
really. Isn't
So
it?
when you're flicking the rig up, it's just like you're getting that dink, dink, and then you get your bite, that
Of
kind of
course,
thing.
yeah. You're connected.
But yeah, you do need that many times.
And when I go out and I'm because me as an angler,
Yeah.
I'm feeding
Yeah.
and I'm using my float to tell me everything.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
it's telling me everything that's going on. Like, right now I'm getting no indications. I'm not missing bites. Therefore, I probably need to go a bit deeper. I'm not getting any
Yeah.
bites. Oh, I'm missing some bites. I need to shallow up here.
Yeah.
Like, or I am at the right depth. I'm missing bites because I'm not feeding enough. I'm feeding too much, or I'm not feeding enough. Do you understand what I mean?
So the fundamentals will stay the same with shallow fishing a conventional rig.
Yeah.
And I talk about this a lot in coaching. So we always start off on a conventional rig, catch one, near enough one every go, but we're missing like 3 or 4 bites. But the angler's happy. Yeah, we're catching loads of fish. I'm like, right, let's speed it up a bit. Let's go to an inline dibber, not overshotted. So it's like everything's nice and tight, or a jigger. So you don't hit as many, so you don't miss as many bites. You're catching fish. Right, let's change it up again. Let's go to overshotted. And only then you can see the difference. You might be happy catching like how quick you're catching. It's only when you put this rig on, it just changes everything. It's ridiculous.
Because effectively, once that you never miss a bite.
There's no bites to miss. It's
There's
on.
no bites to miss.
It's either on or you don't know.
So what sort of length of time? Because obviously, it's not always solid.
No.
So sometimes you have to be patient. To
Oh, you've got to be patient. You've got to prime it. Well, don't know, say sometimes. There's venues where you go to, you just start off on it if you wanted to.
Yeah, of
But
course.
usually, obviously, starting off short, priming your shallow swim towards reeds or whatever in open water. But I'd never ever start off on overshot. I'd always go to like a through the water one, a nice normal rig through the water, see what they are.
to tell you what's going on. roughly.
Tell me what depth they're at first, and then wherever I'm getting the bites at that, I'll come back, correspond it to me overshotting, and then I'm going to catch quicker on it. So that's what I do it.
Yeah.
And then it's a minute after that between bites or between fish.
A minute.
A minute. If you're not catching them in the minute,
I'd
go
never
deeper.
catch nothing.
If they're in this bit here, or you're
Why is that?
swirling,
Why is
welcome.
that? Talk about that.
It's something to do with when they're feeding. So they're coming up to your bait when you're
They
fishing
definitely
at
come
the
up
right
like
depth.
this, 100%.
And when they're going back down, that's where they're there. But when they're here and then going to the side or anything like that, or coming up,
Yeah.
that means it tells you that they're a little bit shallower. So you need to go shallower.
So effectively, when you're getting them here, you want to be a little bit
Shallower.
Right. Okay.
It's nuts.
I find that very confusing
Yeah.
because a lot of people say to me, "Oh, I've got all my fish on the bottom lip." Did you get that problem? I'm like,
When you fish on the
I'm not
bottom.
even bothered, mate. I'm putting them
as
in
long
the
as
net.
they're on, it don't matter.
Des, I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm like, badoosh. Like, where was that hook? Somebody
On the-
said
on
to
the
me
feeder,
once,
it's
I can
fine.
see me
I'm
hook.
catching all my skimmers on the bottom lip. I said, "Are you?" And they're like,
gone.
and they
I'm
say,
getting mine in the
"Well,
peck."
Have you caught all yours on the bottom lip? I said, "Mate," I said, "as long as it's gone in that keep there, I don't
matter,
care
does
where
it?
it's hooked."
Literally doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I
But no,
I
but see-
can't like.
But at that again, listen. This is expanding on who you
Yeah.
are as an angler and what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
doing
yeah.
as an angler.
As I
So,
say, I don't get me wrong. I much prefer to watch a float, fish that. But the venues I fish, you just can't compete doing that.
you
so
won't compete, will you?
Yeah.
you
that
either
is-
go
that
there
is
or
the
you don't.
problem.
Simple as that.
And is that okay? So, in your opinion,
Yeah.
if I put Andy May is now in charge of all fishing, right? Is it still allowed? Or
No.
you're banning it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a very bad idea.
I think it's a great.
Yeah. Don't leave me.
So if it was
There'd be
your
a pub
fish-
everywhere.
Is it your fishery? You would
Yeah.
say no.
100%.
Yeah.
But
And that-
why,
watch a
why
float.
would you say that?
Yeah.
Because of back in the day, like how we all started, we didn't know about it. And that's what I'm used to. But the youngsters now, the ones coming through, just going out, beast mode, catch a load of fish.
Do you think it's having an adverse effect on
Yes.
what people's outlook of fishing is?
100%.
And do you think it's actually not doing it any good?
Yeah.
And I agree. And we
I
said
do.
before
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
piece, I think it's very important whenever you discuss a controversial topic, I want to keep a positive frame of mind
Yeah.
and an open-minded. But I agree. I mean, I would never go.
No.
I would never go and fish
Ultimately,
there. I
though,
just don't want to go and do it.
You go fishing to catch fish, and if that's the method,
You've
then
got
that's
it.
what you're doing it.
Yeah,
You know what
that's
I mean?
right. Yeah, and each technique is different because there's some people that go, I'll go method feeder.
Do you know, I went to
frustrates me, Lee, when-
Tunnel.
Go on.
Sorry, and I
No,
went
go
to
on.
Tunnel. Not this Saturday, the second winter league. I missed the first one.
Yeah.
And I drew 8 on house, and it fished really funny. Foul. Everybody was foul-looking fish. They were in a real mood. But at the end, I actually set up 2 overshotters because I thought there was a chance because it's still warm. But I caught shallow in the last 45 minutes. Probably caught 15 F1s.
With your overshotted rigs?
No,
With your
with a
nice
little
rig?
tiny rig.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, Des, pick up the overshotted rig. And I'm like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I would rather miss.
That's the thing.
I've
I
had,
would rather miss.
Don't get me wrong, there'll be times when you need a lot of fish competing for it to work well.
Yeah.
And if there's not, that's when the conventional rig will 100% outfish you.
in my mind, I don't
couldn't do it.
enjoy it.
No, well, that's where I sit with it.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I tried it. I was fishing next to some rushes, and the fishing was rubbish. And I thought, I'll have a go on this overshot rig. And I sat there for 4 or 5 minutes with the top getting one. Bear in mind, I hadn't even long pole, and I'm doing it like this. And after literally 5 minutes, I'm like, I don't want to sit here keep doing this. I want to. For me, the art was presentation.
Yeah.
No,
So
but the
like
young generation will sit there and do it.
Of course they will. Of course they will. But we live in a time when there's lots of different people in fishing and lots of different choices of what you can do. My fear for maybe this is a personal fear, is that as that younger generation grows up with that, they're not going to want to do what we're doing the same. And I don't want to see what we're doing die. I don't want to see nobody fishes a stick float anymore.
No.
I got this year on the Warwickshire Raven for the Division 1 National, there was some stick float fishing.
Oh, well.
And literally, I cannot tell you how long it took me to find them. Right, it took me so long to find them, right? And you could go back to, John Allett and John Dean on the Trent.
Yeah.
And those people would be like, God, I hope stick float fishing never goes.
But what's John Arton doing now?
No, well, not fishing, but my point is,
I
he's gone
thought
back
he
to
was still,
naturals.
like,
No,
going-
John's.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but he went Lindome for a long time.
Yeah.
But my point is that everything moves on, doesn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. So like, Barnsley have won a lot of Trent Nationals, and not one of them anyone's fished a stick float because it's not it's feeder, it's feeder or pole. That's what it is. Maybe a bit of waggler.
Yeah.
And those days have gone.
Yeah.
But what I don't want to do is, obviously we're loving these silverfish matches, and I feel like by allowing the overshotting, by allowing it to be part of fishing, we run the risk in the expectations of fishing being too high. Because what I don't want is those young anglers then going somewhere and having to fish for £50 again.
Yeah.
With rigs that all need a little bit of nicety to them, and they don't enjoy it, or you can become numb to catching too many fish, can't you? I think you can become numb to fishing. If
you
it's,
can.
If
I think
it's
it'd do your head in.
too much of a good thing, I think that. I mean, I wouldn't. What is the satisfaction if you once you've got that tapped?
Yeah.
And then you're doing that, and you're going, I'm catching today, but you look down and there's clearly more fish down
It's like
there.
when I've taken
Yeah,
Zolt
Somebody else
filming.
doing it.
It's like when I've done that film with Zolt, and you'd have done the same. I'm like, did you see that bite? And he's like, no.
Yeah.
I can't even see your float. He's like, well, it's a bit different now. 'cause
Yeah,
he's
but
got his,
that was before Spectator.
the glasses?
yeah, he's
Go
got
on,
his new
Tom.
glasses.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there is nothing better in my mind than seeing a dimple of your float, having an indication.
And knowing whether that was a bite or
Well,
a liner or what was it.
I think in my mind, my reactions are like, I don't even think about that. I'm like, that was your brain's like, that was a bite. Oh, you think, was it? Well, it was struck already.
Yeah.
And having a fish on. To me, that is.
Float
At least with I know some people might go, well, it's no different to a bolt rig on a method feeder, but it is because you're loading your feeder different ways. You're putting ground bait on it, you're putting micros on it,
You've gotta
you're
get
changing
cast
your
right,
hook
haven't you?
baits, aren't you? You're loading your feeder, where you put your bait in the feeder.
Yeah. And I don't want elite matches within the commercial world to be seen as that. Because I think then that's not relatable for you.
You imagine the world champion. You imagine the world championships doing that everywhere.
No, absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
the
just
final
be a
venues, so the
disaster.
fish show, the Mave, none of them
Allow
that,
it.
that comes into it, does it? Doesn't allow
No,
it.
so
But a lot of the qualifiers do.
Yes.
So I think that's when
That's fishery rules, though, I think,
some
isn't it?
anglers
Yeah.
who qualify fishing that certain way, they sometimes struggle in the final because they're not used to fishing the certain tactics, techniques.
yeah,
that kind of thing.
I it's just because I'm, I love to see us progressing, and what we're doing is very good. And I found that interesting what you were talking about there, Andy, about how there is intricacies to it, how that you need different depths, you need all that. So there is, basically it's been mastered, hasn't it?
Oh,
within the
100%.
last few years, it's been mastered.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, in fishing,
Not by me, by the way.
generally speaking in fishing, anything that catches fish a lot does burn out because things change, don't they?
Yeah.
Fish almost wise up to it. They get the new fish at Tunnel Barn will be bred to know that that's how they get caught. You know, like it kind
So they're
of.
probably
But
listening
I
out
think
for
what's
that noise
next, though,
thing,
I
you
think
know.
that.
Yeah, well, that's when.
Do you know,
we
I
started
went-
with jiggers.
You remember back in the day, like floating pole? That's what you originated from. wasn't
Yeah.
it? Years and years.
Yeah.
But don't you believe? This is my opinion. When floating pole came out, effectively within a few years, it got banned, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Everywhere,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Everywhere, floating pole
Oh,
got
yeah.
banned, and I think that was one of the greatest things that ever happened for commercial fishing.
Yeah.
Because I honestly believe if floating pole wouldn't have been banned, if we'd have just gone, no,
yeah.
it's just floating pole.
Yeah.
I could use my Garbellino Virage for that.
What was the Galbalina pole they brought out? The floater. Remember that? It was 20 metres. You know, remember that?
Yeah.
But where,
Paper was designed for that.
where would modern day commercial
Oh, yeah.
fishing be?
Be a disaster.
Well, we wouldn't be as good as we are.
No.
For definite.
No.
Because you'd have been going, right, there's some cover. Because it'd work now, wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
100%.
Of course it would.
You just literally whiz it across to the reeds and sit there and lash bait at it.
Imagine all the
Go.
poles in the bottom of the lakes that you forgot about.
Yeah,
I
one of
wasn't
them
quick enough. I had a
sections.
bit of a nod off.
Yeah, but
That's it.
so part of me thinks sometimes as an angling community, we've
Yeah,
got
yeah.
a responsibility to go,
Definitely.
do you know what? No.
Yeah.
You know, like we don't want to be doing that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good. And I think
It's only an F1 thing.
It
isn't
is.
It?
Yeah.
it is
an
only,
F1.
it is only an F1 thing. And you know,
Well, it will work for
each to
everything,
their
doesn't it?
own. I'd like
Yeah.
to, I'm going to make it my mission. I'd love to know what some of the younger guys think about it.
Yeah,
Because I
that'd be
don't know
interesting.
what they, you know,
They've been
because
brought up into it, haven't
yeah,
they?
exactly. So I'm curious.
We've
to know
seen,
their thoughts.
like you said, stick float, waggler, you know,
Yeah.
all
I
sorts of different
I don't know
sites.
of a single angler over 40
No.
that likes it.
Just-
I couldn't name you one that wants to.
I was
that
about
will
to
want-
say the likes of Bagger, Jamie, they won't do it. Literally won't do it.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
going to it. No, I'm going to fish away. That's it. Done, dusted.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
yeah,
No,
it is.
They won't do it.
No, no,
no.
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 But those people who were dominant in the events we're talking about aren't as dominant.
No.
And watch them get beat.
Yeah, yeah.
They are getting beat,
Yeah.
and they are the best, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I look at it and go, you shouldn't. You're getting beat because we've simplified the methods, and now pegs are playing a bigger part.
Yeah.
But
And I think
at the same
F1
time,
fishing
it's popular.
leads to if you go into an F1 venue all the time, it leads to what we're going back to with all your rigs on rigs already on your top kits. It is that carp fishing and other fishing doesn't do that.
No, it doesn't. No,
It's
that's right.
that sort of fish where you can go. That are the rigs that
Yeah.
are going to catch me those fish today,
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially shallow
'Cause
fishing.
when the depth is limited as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't.
And to me, it's like that's great. But I want something else. You need something else. You need to be able to go fishing, make some rigs up, and sometimes
Bit of variety.
I fish that.
I mean,
rig.
commercial fishing these days. If I ever go and want to go and do some commercial fishing, it's more prep than the stuff I do by a million miles.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, particularly in feeder, but natural fishing and all those sorts of things. People go, I need all that gear. I go, not compared to commercials.
Yeah.
You've just told me I need 10 shallow rigs.
Yeah.
Right? So I've got to do all those rigs, which means I've got at least 10 hook lengths on each one, and I've got to have them all backed up. Then I don't know if I want a 4-inch, a 3-inch, what band size how far is my band from my hook? There is so much effort that needs to be
a lot
gone
into
to
it.
the highest level of commercial fishing these days. It's insane. It is insane. And, those elements of it are good because they're obviously keeping those guys fresh and they're switched on and all the rest of it. But I am concerned, and we have seen it with certain young anglers already, we're watching them burn out very
Yes.
quick.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I'm very concerned because at the same time, us all here, we're
But
fishing
why
at
do you
a high
think
level.
that? Though? Why do you think? Because we all know who we're talking about.
Yeah, well, we get people.
I mean,
who
how
burn
does
out.
it come to that position? How, is it like we've all gone through the hardship. Sorry, it's a hardship. That's my second name. of like not
that your
having
middle name?
not having anything.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Going
vegetarian
fishing
day.
once a week. Just to have enough money to go and put the
Yeah.
fuel in.
Yeah.
Do you think that? To me, I think that brings you up as a
definitely.
better person.
I think so as well. But maybe,
My dad used to say to me, "Oh, if you want to go fishing, get on your push bike and go."
Yeah, and there might be young anglers listening to this thinking, "Shut up, you old gits."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No,
Like, what are you
but-
talking about? But at the same time, you try. I'm very aware that
I think that is a problem. That creates a
problem. At the end of my
Yeah,
fishing
I think that
career,
creates a problem when you've got
yeah.
No, I'm not saying he's, you've got everything, but
No, you have
when you've
they've got everything.
Well,
everything. The people.
but that becomes
everything.
a problem on its own at the end.
Yeah.
Because you lose. I think you can lose track of. That's just what you know.
Yeah.
You've not seen that.
But that's the
other end of
immediate. That's the immediate nature of of our culture
Today,
that we're living in.
nowadays,
Today,
yeah.
that is. So what I'm thinking of is more. It isn't a case of right, son. I'm going to take you fishing, and over the next 5 years, we'll learn all these. My
Yeah.
dad wouldn't even let me have a pole.
Yeah, I was
because
the
he
same.
was like, you've got to learn a waggler first.
Online, yeah,
got
yeah.
to. If you don't learn this first, you won't be able to pole fish.
Yeah.
All right, Dad, I want this pole. I want this pole. And eventually you get the pole, and it's like, all right, I'm trying to learn this and all
Yeah.
the rest of it. Nowadays, it's like immediacy of, buff, there it is.
Yeah.
If your lad had never been fishing before and he turned to you and said, Dad, I want to take up fishing, I guarantee you'd go and get him all the gear straight away.
Yeah, you
That
would.
is
Oh, yeah,
what
yeah.
every modern
100%.
parent would do.
Yeah, yeah.
And you go, here's all the gear. Here you go, son, watch Andy May's video
Yeah.
and you'll soon be
Blank.
catching. You'll
Shouldn't be smashing them
You'll
out.
soon be catching £100 on overshot
Yeah, yeah,
rigs.
definitely.
And the immediacy of that and the instant nature of that is very gratifying for them to go, oh, I love fishing, it's absolutely incredible. But then I worry I don't know how long that's lasting. I don't know how quickly that
Yeah.
burns out because
If you only done that one particular technique,
the
let's say about
boredom.
overshotting.
I think the boredom
I
comes
think,
in.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
it comes
it's
to this
boredom.
time of year when it doesn't work. Like, oh.
Yeah, what's going on here, Ren?
What's going on here? You can't wait for a bite. They can't
Yeah,
wait
yeah.
for a bite. They can't
Twitchy.
go, I'm fishing
I'm like
5
that on the
fish
overshotter
today."
anyway.
Yeah. No, I hate the
Because I'm
overshot
thinking,
that.
whoa, what? And you go, oh, hello.
But your brain's turned
oh,
off.
And then it's
Isn't
like,
your brain turned
and
off?
I'm like, did.
Yeah.
I can't. I can't.
make the
handle
noise
that.
as well, Des, when you're doing it.
I've got to do that to make me top pole tick. Go like that. Did.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's modern day match fishing's biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Keeping the next generation engaged, with what
Interested
we're
coming
doing.
through.
Yeah, engaging what we're doing, getting them coming through, and ensuring that they're like what we're doing. And I take feeder fishing as an example, only because I obviously do international.
What do you
feeder
think about the
fishing.
venues though? The people that own the venues. Do you think they're looking at it and
Well, I think
thinking?
it's their responsibility to
Yeah.
say, yeah, or
In
nay.
a
or-
certain
I don't think
way.
they've got. I don't think they should. There's not
'Cause everybody's-
they haven't got any
everybody's
responsibility.
got a choice, haven't they?
Everybody's got a choice. We've just talked about it now.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Right,
Because like where I live, it would be like, no.
Yeah, but
Ain't happening.
let's go back to Tunnel Barn, right? Dyer Masters. Your mates are driving up to go and do it.
They've gotta
I know
do
they're
it.
not going to do it again, but people do it, and every year that competition is sold out.
Oh, yeah.
Every
Money
year.
is in it.
I'd argue
there
it's.
was like 30 on the.
I would.
waiting list
Is there
this year.
100? Do they have
Wow.
100 people fish that match?
Yeah.
Right. So there's.
And the rest, I think. A bit more, 120 maybe.
Well, there you go. There's not a festival that's bigger.
No.
Right. So we're sitting here going, we don't like it, but clearly enough people want to go and have a go at it. So I'm not. That's what I believe this discussion should be about. It's like, okay, I'm not saying no.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
saying, oh, ban it all costs. We would like to see that, but I think it's understanding it and understanding the nature of what we're actually trying to stop, and not for our own benefit. I'm not trying. I don't even go.
Yeah.
But when I see somebody win, I've got to be honest. When I see somebody win that match now,
Yeah.
it don't matter to me because I know how they've caught.
I think the
I'm not
trouble,
bothered.
trouble you'd have now, if it was to be banned at somewhere like, say, Tunnel, the fish are that wise to it.
Yeah,
When you went on your normal
that
rigs, you'd
is
be
exactly
like,
what I
well, I
was
know I
gonna-
could catch these,
What do you
but
mean
I
back
can't
to
do it.
normal weights? But this is my point though.
Yeah,
that was
but-
fishing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Back
it
to
was.
normal
Yeah,
weights.
missing them bites, but then because you have been subject to overshotting, you know you can catch them. It'd be like in the back of your head, it'd do your head in
Do you
even
know
more.
when I was there the other
You know what I mean?
week, and everybody was foul looking loads of fish,
Yeah.
right? I thought to myself, and this is my opinion,
Yeah.
that is all to do with one thing.
Yeah.
Because they're so cute.
There's only one way to catch them.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because they're getting caught
and you don't
non-stop.
fall. Yeah,
Oh,
you
oh,
don't.
that.
You don't fall looking.
And I thought, and no, these are people like fishing on the bottom.
Yeah.
And I thought these fish are so cute and tuned in to
Yeah.
all of that all
Yeah.
the time. It's actually affecting. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
It's affecting the fish. It's like they wouldn't go on the bottom. And I know that happens in that sort of fishing, like, you know, F1 fishing. But I really thought to myself, never had this here before like that.
Yeah.
We done a video there.
Oh yeah,
Did
the
we?
live match. Lee, actually, I have the question. What would you do that the classic style of fishing would be more appealing for the youngsters than that overshotting style or commercial style?
I think I don't know if it's I don't think they look at the style as appealing. I just think this is what I'm talking about. So the people that they're looking up to, who are sat over on that other side of that table, I think that it's important that what the image that we're giving across the fishing is pure and right. That they can go, I want to go and do that. You know, I personally, whenever we do videos, we could easily go out and do a commercial video every single time.
Yeah.
I could go out and I know what will get the most views. I know what to go and do. Let's go and fish shallow. Let's go and do. I can do that, no problem. But I always say I think it's important for fishing to have diversity. We're looking at a set of wagglers on his table over there. You need to show the depth of fishing.
Yeah.
Because fishing is for everyone from 90 years old to 9 years old.
Yeah.
And that's my concern. The market in fishing, or the average age of a fisherman in life, is generally a lot older. I don't want those younger guys to almost like be done with it by the time they're 30. Do you understand what I mean? Like that's what my concern is. Like, oh, that was good. I enjoyed that, catching a load of fish. And then, what do you mean I've got to sit there? Because you all know we become more patient as we get older.
Yeah.
You know, you can sit more patiently, can't you, than you could when you were 25, because you're like,
I'm worse.
I just need to understand.
I need something happening.
I need to
Engine management.
I need to understand it. I need to
Yeah.
understand what's going on. So I don't know what you're, to answer your question, I don't know. I mean, I was doing a touch on feeder fishing. There's an under 25 championships, and the European guys can easily get under 25 teams.
Right.
We can't even get 5 guys under 25 to go feeder fishing. So we haven't got. We do not have a national team.
I was just
am
about to ask a
42,
question. Yeah.
and
I'd
I'm
love
the
to be under
youngest.
25.
I'm 42, and I'm the youngest angler in the feeder team, right? And we've had Mac Fish this year who's 29, but there is no one challenging. There is no.
Are they
younger
actually
guys.
looking for a...
There's no younger guys.
Well, then other nations, I was going to ask you that.
No, they're queuing up.
Oh, Andy's.
The Hungarians,
Not
the
just feeder,
Hungarians,
like float
too,
fishing, everything, yeah?
In their national teams, they have
Wow.
anglers. And let's be honest, let's sit here and be dead real, right? If there was only international fishing now, the likes of Brad Lucas, Christian Jones, Rob Swan, they would be smashing on the England door. And that is what I would change.
They're not bothered about
they're
that
not, but
because
I want
the money.
Yeah.
The money is a draw.
The money-
There's no
the
doubt
money
about it
is
for
a
the big
draw.
finals.
Hang on, but also the simplicity of what the brilliance. Well, hey, look, got a brilliant day. £200 at Western Pools today on whatever they've done, and you go, how can I compete with that? When Matt Godfrey comes back and says, oh, I've caught 30 bleak and I've caught 2 skimmers. I had to really get it. Whereas, and he's pumping. He's absolutely pumping. He's going, you know how great it is, Des. You know how great it is, Andy. You've been and done it. But the immediately
That
satisfying
attitude's
nature.
very rare now. I think.
But you've been you're not going today. When I took my lad fishing with his mate, and I thought, where am I going to take him? Well, we went to a local pond with Wakefield Anglers Clubs, and they fished a 3-metre whip and caught a great big eyed every single chuck in, and both of them thought it was brilliant.
Amazing. Yeah,
They thought it was brilliant. I couldn't believe how good it was. We went about 6 weeks later, and the fish just weren't close anymore. It was a bit colder. It was a bit flatter. They were further out in the lake. We caught a few little rudd, not many. Within 2 seconds,
Done.
They're
Where's
done.
my phone? That kind of thing. Yeah.
done.
Gone.
Right, because they weren't catching
Yeah.
6 to 8, 12-ounce eyed every chuck in.
I'm a bit like that.
Yeah, I know you are. You want to catch
You
7
are.
I've got a
I
lot in common with you. That's your son.
But do you understand?
Yeah,
That's
100%.
my fear
Yeah.
for match fishing is that it's not our responsibility, but I would like to see a healthy appeal. That's why I'm loving commercial silverfish matches.
Yeah.
And I'm loving the fact that these young anglers want to come and have a go at it.
Yeah,
Because they will realise that they will get people doing it.
More to it. Yeah.
And obviously, as they
See the
progress
other
and get
side,
older-
don't they? The other side
would
is
like
important. I think the other side,
Yeah.
the other end of the scale, is so important for the long term
Yeah.
of you as an angler.
Yeah,
I think if you ain't got that,
yeah.
of course, the draw of fish shows, big finals is great, but that bit leads you up to like where you will, what you want to become.
On the national this year on the Warwickshire Avon, I had to fish for a few little minnows, which was pathetic, right? But I went out. It was pathetic.
I've done that.
It was pathetic, right? It was pathetic, no
I'd
doubt.
get the
But-
minnow and put it on the hook for a chub.
Exactly. That's right. It's right. But I went out on the long pole after an hour and whatever, and I hooked a perch 6 ounce on light elastic.
On a minnow.
Rung me on the minnow. Rung me all over the river. right? My heart's beating out my chest, and
Yeah.
I've netted this 6-ounce perch, which, because the water's clear, is immaculate. Like, all,
Oh,
and I've
beautiful
netted
dark
it,
colours in.
and I've put it in my net, going, yes, like I needed that fish, right? And I laughed because I thought, what a sad.
Yeah.
To a young angler who shakes a perch off down the edge.
Yeah.
Oh my God, stupid 6-ounce perch hanging on to me worm. And isn't that different? Isn't that weird? And,
Yeah,
and the
yeah, definitely.
overshotted.
That's team fishing as well. Though.
Yeah.
It is team fishing. But so the national championships, all of that, if we continue with the incredible fishing, overshotted, this is the path the world is going down, you can forget everything that you've ever known about fishing, in my opinion. In 20 years' time,
Yeah.
there will be no one doing it because those anglers that are doing it will have left. They want ease, they want convenience. Well, but I love a Spring Vale because there is some rules and the fishing's nice and all the rest of it.
Definitely. Yeah, I think they can't overshot there.
Not
so
to
it's
my
like,
knowledge,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So,
I don't know.
Phenomenal.
In the fish show final, it didn't work. No, I didn't. The fish show qualifier, not the final.
but isn't that right? So I just feel
Yeah.
like I think it's a
Yeah,
really
yeah.
interesting topic, and I think that it's a topic that's really hot. And I think on the comments on this podcast, there's going to be people who go,
But
you can't ban ways of fishing, but there's also going to be a load of people that say,
Yeah.
I hate it. I
Yeah,
hate
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I
But-
hate it. You know,
you've got a choice.
you've got to
Don't
choose.
go.
If you don't like it, don't go there.
But it
don't
puts
ruin
me,
it for the
puts
anglers
me
that do
off.
like
it
to
does
go.
put me off and go. Even though I want to go on, like to try and qualify. You know, if I do go to a qualifier, I have to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
there and
yeah.
be armed with it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you know,
I can't deal
you know
with
that, don't
this 10 top kits.
you? Yeah.
No.
That's me. So the average person
That's
out
my-
there
that
is-
must be a minefield.
That is my concern, because still your average angler, we could always relate to them. They would. How many messages do you get that says, "I've got 4 top kits.
Yep.
Yeah.
What
What
elastic
elastic?
should I put?"
That's it.
That is
Yeah,
probably the question we all get asked the most,
Yeah.
right? And you go back and you go, "What do you want? One light, one this, one the other." They cannot relate to what you've just talked about.
No.
Because
Impossible.
now we are making it impossible. So the elite, and that's what makes other sports so popular. They can pick up a set of darts, pick up a set of
I'd be
golf
like
clubs,
that.
and they can be the same as the
Can I
best.
ask you a question? You know you're overshotted, rigs. Right, you say you got 8 or 10 top kits down. Do you have the little numbers on the end, like depth wise?
No, you haven't been ordered, Des.
Oh.
You start from shallowest to deepest, so you know exactly what's what.
No, I thought you might have a little
Don't put
sticker
back
on the
in the
end
wrong
saying
order either.
9 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches, 14 inches, 16
Oh, no,
inches.
you can't go odd numbers. It's got to be even.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I was thinking,
Oh.
surely you can go.
How dare ya.
See, surely you can go
10,
6, 8,
12,
10,
14,
12.
16.
Starting off at
18.
6. Starting off at 6 or 8, mate.
6,
You know what I
8,
mean? All the
10,
way.
12.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but and for so for someone like yourself, Des, and me,
Yeah.
and you, Andy, you don't.
I do it half-heartedly.
Yeah, which is terrible.
But
It's
Well,
terrible,
it is,
you
but
know.
that's it.
But
That's
it's the
me.
truth. Yeah. 6, you go 6, 12, 18.
Give me some silverfish rigs. Oh, here we go.
yes, definitely.
Every shot's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. So I think as fishing goes, I think that making sure we keep it real,
Yeah.
and that's for us going forward with videos and everything else that we're doing is very important. I think as match if we want match fishing to continue, or we just have to accept that life is changing.
How
and
do
it's
you-
going to change?
I've got to ask Andy.
Go on,
if you're
Des.
doing coaching on this
Yeah.
subject,
Yes.
topic, and you say to a guy he's fishing 10 inches and you've gone out, you need to put 2 inches on that, mate.
Yeah.
How do you go about that? How
Use
does
my
that
top kits.
how does that guy go? Well, I'm only fishing 2 inches different.
Yeah, it's mad. That's what I
but
mean. It's like it's getting in your
but
head
when
that
you're
makes a
doing
difference.
that, why don't you just drop your pole tip under the water another 2 inches?
Because you're not getting the flick right then.
Oh,
That's just right. Yeah, so there is an art to
Of
it.
course there is.
So the skill that you're doing,
you need to
I'm
get.
not going to do it.
Why not?
Definitely, I'm
You
not
might
gonna
have to do it.
Go
when
on,
you're doing
you do that as well, and I'll come to Southfield with you.
coaching the uncoachable.
Go on.
We might
yeah,
have to
because you
do
ain't
it.
coming Southfield. No
No.
chance.
No.
It's not what's
I
happening.
reckon-
To
you
be
imagine-
honest,
keep saying-
nobody wants to go Southfield.
No.
And
Can you imagine Andy at
Do you reckon it'll
Southfield?
start to work
no
at
chance,
Southfield? I reckon I'd have to go to Southfield for 5 years to catch a fish on overshotted.
Have you been to
Hey, no,
Southfield?
there's loads
No.
of great big hybrids you can catch on
Is
pole
there?
pleasure fishing. Yeah.
What,
Yeah.
overshotting?
I bet you would. Yeah. I bet you
Flipping
would.
heck.
Catch them on casters. It's only
Right.
that deep anyway.
Is it?
So, maybe
It's on the bottom.
that's it. I'm going.
Do
I'm
it.
campaign overshotting.
Do it,
We'll
Lee.
win a match at Southfield overshotting next year. when it's photo only. All right, listen, super interesting.
Yeah.
It's always a
It
sore
is.
subject.
I'm
that.
definitely.
going to draw a line on this podcast today. It's been incredible to go back over some of the key things of fishing that you guys have done this year. I hope you guys at home have all enjoyed it. We've certainly enjoyed ourselves.
Absolutely.
And we're going to have plenty of great guests for you, where we're going to be going a little bit more personal into those guests, because I think you know a lot about these guys already in the future. But thanks everybody for listening, watching, and I hope you've enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Well, that's your
Oh.
job. That's your job.
No, that's not my job.
Yeah.
Don't
Just
forget to like and subscribe on
Hit the
the
notification.
YouTube
Sol,
channel.
Tell them where
Yeah.
they can watch it while you're at it. And
Yeah,
listen.
come
Can they
on,
listen?
Sol.
Because we don't
Sol,
know.
put
You
your
haven't
face
told
on.
us.
Get your face on the camera.
Come on,
because,
come on, have a seat.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Your faces is more than enough.
Where can they listen to it, Zol? Everywhere they get the podcast, or just on YouTube? Or
No, on Spotify and YouTube. as
there you
well.
go.
Go on to
Yeah,
Spotify.
brilliant. Yeah,
Go on to
Spotify.
YouTube. Well, yeah, fair
Brilliant.
play.
Enjoy.